asshole anymore.
overtime hours for bullshit pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me and people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is, living in the new world with an old soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do, 'cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich man, not the rich man. Politicians would look out for minors, not just minors on an island somewhere. Lord, we got folks in the street, ain't got nothing to eat, and the obese milking welfare. Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags fudge rounds. Young men putting themselves 6 feet in the ground, 'cause all this damn country does is keep on kicking them down. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me and people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Living in the new world with an old soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do, 'cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich man, north of Richmond. All day, overtime hours for bullshit pay.
Let's go! Welcome back to the EdgeStream. It's good to see you all tonight. Another Tuesday night. We're back in the Edgy D dungeon. The Edgy D murder dungeon. I got my insulation backdrop. Yes, we're working on it, but for now, I sleep within the insulation. I get real itchy, and I tweak out on stream, and it's it's honestly a great time. We're gonna have a good show tonight. I'm glad to see you all. We're live right now on YouTube. We're live on Entropy, and Entropy is a place where you can go and give donations if you want to contribute to the show in any way. Also, Rumble and Odyssey, some good alt tech platforms. And that song that I just played, the Oliver Anthony cover of Rich Men North of Richmond. Now, this is a punk cover. I gave you guys a little snippet, a little preview of it last week. Now, my buddy made this song. He did an incredible job. He did it all by himself, all the different instruments. I'm going to dump it in the chat on YouTube, on Entropy, on Rumble, and Odyssey. There, I dumped it in all the different chats. I want you guys to go and subscribe to him. Hopefully he does more songs like this, because it only took him a few days to come up with something that good all by himself. The one-man band. And yeah, that song was just begging to become a punk song. I think the real psyop with that song is that it's so damn catchy. All the other shit is bullshit. This song is just so stuck in my head, it's haunting me day and night. I just have to like snuff out this tune, this earworm that is stuck in my head. That is this song. I've had enough. But it's good to see you all. Got some good topics for you guys tonight. I'm probably not going to be talking about all the wildfires that are, I guess, burning up all of Canada. We got Yellowknife, BC, and Maui, of course, in Hawaii. Now, I don't think I'm qualified to talk about like the nuances of all of this. I bet you there are some arsonists who are facilitating some sort of agenda. Maybe they're getting paid. Maybe they're useful idiots. I don't know. Maybe the temperature is just getting hotter, and this is a natural thing that happens. Hell, maybe man-made climate change is actually a real thing. No, I highly doubt that. Because why wouldn't they go and take India or say China, who are actually polluting far worse than we are? Why don't all these green energy Greta Thunberg types, all these bleeding hearts, why don't they go after China and India? Now that tells you all you need to know. But I don't know the specifics of it. I think that maybe they're propping up a lot of these wildfires, a lot of these devastating incidences that happen like several times every decade. Now they're propping it up as part of the climate change agenda. And of course, they're bringing in the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. And there's the carbon tax and the carbon credit that is going to be involved with that. And yes, they're trying to limit your travel. They're trying to limit your freedoms. They're trying to make you content and accepting of less and get you living in your little city bubble. And meanwhile, they're flooding our countries, all Western countries, with immigrants to compete for all of that. To not only compete economically, but culturally. And to also gaslight us into thinking that we are not a people that are worthy of any self-respect. Man, it's a crazy world out there. And we're going to get into it tonight. I think Ferryman is going to join me in a bit. I joined him last night on the Daily Toll, and I had a great time. I was there for about 2 hours. We had some good discussions, and we'll probably carry on with some of those discussions that we had last night. So, I want to show you, guys, a couple of things that I did over the weekend. But first, I'm going to hop into the chat. I'm going to see what you guys are saying. Roland Lamoureux with some Bible verses. Thank you for those. Ferryman Withdrawal. Nice name. Ammo C9M says, Helen Keller somehow came up in discussion today. Needless to say, I had to share your song. They were quickly repulsed. In my opinion, that tune is a masterpiece. Hey, in my opinion, you're a fucking legend. I want you to spread the word of the love for Helen Keller, the love for Anne Frank, the love for Rosa Parks. All my historical bitches, I love them all, and I need to make more music videos about them. Honestly. Good to see you, Andrew Simpson, Anonymous, Martin Luther, Quick Dub. Good to see you. He's always ready for an EdgeStream. Trust me, we're going to make this a lot better. This is a temporary phase for this studio that we have going on back here. Derek Knight, good to see you. Daryl Slice Cube, Odious Patton, Chris Freestone, Tradwife, Wazzy, Ashley, Plaidsmith, good to see you. Every rock matters. They really do. Jason, Grant, Liquid Gal, Lee Stewie, saying Eva Braun, in my opinion. What it sounds like is that you're saying that I should make an Eva Braun song. Now, I don't know how that would go. Maybe that could be something that I would... a nice future endeavor right there. I don't know. I'll look into it. Over on Entropy, we have James Edwards. Good to see you there, buddy. Saying it's one of the best things going on right now, the EdgeStream. Wow, I really appreciate that. Trish Farron, always good to see you over there supporting me on Entropy. The GOAT fucking RCMP. Love it, man. Love the name. Dean Murdoch, Madame Breezy, Mika Shrednick. And, of course, on Entropy and on Rumble and on Odyssey, you could donate. I've collected all the donations successfully there. It's going to go into making this show better, honestly. Like, that's what that money is going to go towards, and making me be able to do more research, more production value for the show. So, all donations are appreciated. You could also steer the show in some way if you want to. I'll read them out. Rumble, we have Uncle Kenny, Madame Breezy, Tarpsoft89. Yeah, the Tarpsoft staying awake for the EdgeStream. You love to see it. Incinerator, saying you saw me on Ferryman's channel last night and good stuff. Well, thank you, man. Appreciate that. And over on Odyssey, not as many chats, but it's a very free speech platform. They said it's stuck buffering, but it looks like it's working now, so that's good. Good to see you over there, SPQR. Oh, it looks like we got our special guest for the night. Let's hope that the boomer tech does not take over and he comes in well. How are you doing tonight, Ferryman?
Sorry, I missed the first part there. I didn't have audio yet. What did you say?
How are you doing tonight, man? Can you
good.
hear what
How are
I'm
you?
saying?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, can you hear this?
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're firing on all fronts. Okay, it's good to see you. I was on your show last night. We had some good discussions, and yeah, hoping to continue them here.
Yeah, for sure. What the hell? There we go. Trying to get the YouTube chat up here so I can see what's going on.
Well, I just want to tell you guys briefly about my weekend. I had a fun time. I brought some friends back with me to my parents' house in Orangeville, and my dad, who's had Parkinson's for over 20 years now, he was participating in pedaling for Parkinson's. Now, my dad is a fucking train wreck. Like, he is the most active person I know, but also the most disabled person I know. So these two things colliding, it's insane, and it'll fuck your mind up. And me as a son is like, holy fuck, what is going on here, right? I don't know how to explain it. I'm not going to go too much into depth, but I know last week, I really appreciate you guys. My dad is very competitive about raising money for this fundraiser. And when I threw it out to you guys, I said, my dad has been autistically calling me, telling me that Doug Duke is beating him in donations right now. And he's only $50 away, and he wouldn't stop with it. So, you know, I pulled it up on stream, and you guys got him right ahead of Doug Duke almost immediately. And then the next day, you pushed him even more forward in front of that damn Doug Duke. Now, I don't know who this Doug Duke guy is. He sounds pretty based.
It sounds David Duke's Canadian brother.
Yeah, I almost wanted to donate to him, but, you know, nepotism, fam comes first, so I donated. Well, no, I don't have any money, but I got you guys to donate to my dad. And guess what? My dad raised over $4,000 for Parkinson's, and he beat the fuck out of Doug Duke. And another thing, my dad has been riding this fucking e-bike around. Like, my dad is a mess. When I go and look after him for like a week or two at a time, there's a decent chance that we're going to go to the hospital because he has a huge fall and then he needs to get stitches on his head. But I actually went back with some friends, God bless them, and we filmed a bit of a short film. And I want to make something good of it. I want to do him right. I want to do Parkinson's right. They are coming closer to actually being able to cure it. If you go and look on like TED Talks, there's so many different TED Talks about how they're making breakthroughs, especially with the gut microbiome and how that is connected to all the symptoms of Parkinson's. And there's some like alternative healing stuff that I've told my dad that has actually really helped them, like increases dopamine.
Huh.
Yeah, but either way, I'm not going to dwell on that too long. He inspires me. I could go on all day and be sentimental, but here's a little clip from this weekend, and it's one of the funniest ones. I'm glad I got this one. So you've met my dad too, right? You met him at the Orangeville show for the Danger Cats, right?
Yeah.
Funny story. So I was chilling in the green room because I was performing with the Danger Cats that night. And the green room in a Galaxy Cinemas for stand-up comedians apparently is this weird party room that is like the first room in the like the aisle that goes to all the cinemas. Like cinema 1, 2, 3. There's this party room for kids, but it has tinted windows from the outside. So you can't see what's going on in it. And like, so the talent was in there and we could see everybody coming in, but they couldn't see us. So Sam Walker sees my dad rolling through, like running through with his walker, like, oh, what fucking show is that guy going towards? And then I was just like, that's my dad. And then he thought I was joking, and so I trolled him a little bit. He's like, oh, no shit, that's your fucking dad? And yeah, I got him to meet him later. But really funny. I made some more jokes about how my dad is the bridge troll. And listen, you had to be there, okay? You know, I was chopping it up with the comedians in the green room. You weren't invited. The windows were tinted, okay? All right, but here's my dad. This is the end of the 40K race. So just for some more context, when we had planned this, so my dad did a speech on the Saturday evening before with like the Parkinson's ceremony. It was at some brewery, and then I helped them do his speech. So he did a speech. He has 2 books about his battle with Parkinson's, right? He's an author, and he has a lot of metaphors, and he's done a lot of speaking gigs about it, right? So the next day, he was planning on just doing like maybe 5-10K, but he ended up just ripping away on his e-bike, which is how he gets around town now that he's got his license taken away. So he did the whole 40K. So me and my buddies had a drone. We're running around filming him with our cameras, the gimbals out the window, like in the fucking pursuit of Nelson. He's just too fast. Like, he showed up an hour late to the start, and he caught up with all the rest of the pussy bikers that were in the fucking in the race, and he was riding with them at a certain point. So I'm waiting at the finish line for like maybe 30 minutes, an hour, like waiting for him to come in. And I'm like, where is he? And he just rips in from the grass. I don't even know where the fuck he came from. It's like, yo, what? So, oh. Ooh. So that's a common occurrence. And I knew immediately, though, that wasn't a bad fall.
Yeah.
I understand my dad's falls, and like I'm like, okay, he's fine. So it looks like I'm just trying to get the content. Like, yes, exploiting my own dad for clicks. But no.
You bastard, Edgy.
Yeah. Alright, well, I got that one on camera. he has a good laugh there, too. Let me just put my camera down here. There you go. Bit of a cut. We got him back up. Thank you. Somebody else holding the camera now. Edgy's got the camera again now. And just the final shot of me helping him off his bike. A bit of a slice of life here. I don't know, I really like this shot. I just put my camera down, and it's like father and son walking off into the sunset. Except for there's no sunset, and it's just... It still looks pretty fucking cool.
It's a nice little father-son story there, bud.
Yeah.
I have to say,
we got the picture, the Chad son with
go.
the even Chadder father who just fucking rips it on his e-bike. He's also a national championship weightlifter, powerlifter.
Really?
At 5'3", at like 130 pounds, I think his top bench press was like 320.
Wow.
His top deadlift almost 500, and over 400. Like, I think in between 400 and 500 for his top squat.
Wow.
Like, he tried out for the Olympics. He was doing he also did Olympic lifting too, so he's really into clean and jerks and snatches. I'm not into that. I think like it's just I don't want to process it. I don't want to start doing that too. I'm already into the powerlifting. He always tries to get me to do it, but he actually broke both of his ankles in a video, like trying out for the Olympics, doing, I think it was a clean and jerk or a snatch.
Holy fuck.
So it was just like, kind of like on the blooper reel of the Olympics tryouts, where they're like, take a look at this guy.
Shit.
But anyways, over $4,000 raised, and I'm gonna have a nice short film made about it. I'm gonna do my daddy proud, and
Yo, fuck Terry Fox. Edgy's dad should be on the passport.
Nelson
Fox.
fucking Nelson Edgy should be like on the coin of Canada. Fuck Terry Fox. Fuck Viola Desmond. Why is she on the $10 bill? What did she do? Does anybody even know who that is on their money? What the?
I don't even know who that is, but I know who you're talking about because she's on the money now, but I never found out who it is. I never bothered to. Let me put it this way. That bitch wasn't important enough for them to tell me whenever I was in school who she was. And I actually paid attention in history class and cared about history. So the fact that I didn't know who she was until I was like 29 should tell you a lot.
It's so astroturf. Nobody knows who she is. You only know about her because she's on the money. So apparently she didn't like get let into a movie theater or something. And maybe there was some like social justice activity or some legal proceeding that came of it. But then she went silent for the rest of her life and no one cared. And now like they're just really digging for something like to have a Canadian Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
But it's just not working.
No.
Well, there you go. Fuck Rosa Parks. Fuck Viola Desmond. Especially fuck Terry Fox. Edgy's dad.
Didn't you write a song about Rosa Parks?
Yes, I've done it live many times. I have videos. I could probably pull one up on my Instagram right now, just because you mentioned it. I have something quick that I could show you.
Although somebody did make a good point here, which is maybe your dad should get a 3-wheeler.
I don't know. I tell my dad a million different things. I concern troll him every day. You can't tell somebody like this anything. And that's part of the process of learning how to deal with it. Like, you can't tell, like, he's the nicest guy, completely delusional about his abilities. And, like, yeah, it's really a slice of life, to be honest. Now, there are qualities of him that I'm like, yikes. But there are other qualities of him where I'm like, wow, you live like this every day, and you look like how you look, yet you have no qualms about approaching anybody and subjecting yourself to them. You have, like, the ultimate confidence. Like, my dad, I started doing stand-up comedy. He wanted to do comedy because I was doing it. I was like, oh, okay. He would go and, like, corner people or, like, have his stand-up bits ready, and he would be volunteering at the hospital. And I would hear stories about how he's, like, convincing other hospital volunteers to listen to his whole stand-up act. Just him practicing it. And I'm like, no, the cringe. But he does it, you know. He's on another level.
Right on.
Okay, what was I looking for? Oh yeah, Rosa Parks. Here you go.
Oh God.
Video has no... Okay, what's going on here? Okay.
You got copyright infringement on yourself.
I don't know what's going on, man. Maybe you talk to the chat for a second. I'll figure this
out. Culvert's mom says delusionable. Yeah, Edgy's great. Edgy's got his own edgyisms. There was one last week. I heard it on the way back from work, late driving back, and he said transmute when he meant commute. I think it was like in reference to a sentence. So they transmuted the sentence, but what he meant was commuted the sentence, which was a great line. Now we're using that word all the time at work, transmuting. Hey, can you transmute that hammer over to me? You know,
I just have such an extensive vocabulary that I'm just pulling words from all sorts of esoteric sources.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when people say that's a made up word, they're all made up, dummy. They're all words
Yeah.
are made up.
Very
Okay.
true.
Did you understand what he meant? Well, then I guess you understood him, and it's a real word. He just made it up.
Appreciate you going to bat for
Yeah.
my retardation. Thank you.
All right, you got it.
Yeah. Oh, come on. What's going on here? Okay.
I'm gonna play you
There we
guys a bit of a love
It's a
song.
preview of my song.
Come feel this braille, Helen. That's an uppercase D. Yeah. You looking fine as the breeze. Don't ever let a wild man hold you down unless it's me. Your dad was making some bank, yes he was chewing us all. So he pulled up in tanks and Frank. Grumpy grader, I'ma make a woman out of you. Take you up to Epstein's Island, sailing in my yacht for two.
Just rocking out. Well, there you have it.
Yo.
I had a good streak of a lot of stand-up performances at the beginning of this year. I did a lot of Dimitri's shows in Toronto. Now he has like a new show set up in Etobicoke. It's where he lives, I think, above an adult video store. And I did one recently, and it went great. I know he's getting evicted, but the thing about Ontario is it takes like a year to get evicted. So he's just like, wait, it takes a year to get evicted? More free shows. So now the shows are free. And it's just like, donate what you want if you want, right?
Nice.
Yeah, and I've met a lot of great people there. It's an awesome time.
I'm laughing at the like, well, I guess you're going to have to take a year to evict me. But, you know, the sad thing is that's going to happen so much. That is going to happen all over the place in the next few years. There's going to be so many evictions, whether they're renters or, you know, people who lose their mortgages. It's going to get bad, man.
Well, I actually, as of 2022, for a one-bedroom, I was paying $616 per month, utilities included.
That's not bad.
That's crazy, and I really liked it. But the landlords figured out a way. They pulled like this N11 or 12 thing where they said they're gonna get their son to move in, and I knew it was bullshit because they were trying to get me to voluntarily raise it, and I was not having it. And I eventually ended up going through with it because, like, it was above their business. So it's just like I would have to deal with them every day if I were to start to like initiate a legal battle against them, and I just didn't feel comfortable doing that. And at the end of the day, like, I had a good landlord reference after that because I stuck with it and I took another place for a while. But now it's like anything is over $1,000 if you want to live in any comfort whatsoever. Over $1,000 a month for a rent.
Yeah, man.
Crazy.
That's if you're lucky. Dude, did you see that one TikTok of, I think it was like some fucking Chinese woman like showcasing a 200 square foot apartment in Vancouver that was $2,000.
Oh, sorry. I'm not talking about Vancouver or Toronto.
I know.
That's
I know
probably
you're not,
that's probably at least $2,000 a month for a one bedroom.
That's
I
exactly
had
what
it
it
lucky. I was extremely lucky in London, Ontario, to have a one bedroom for $1,000 a month, and it sucked. $1,500 to $1,600, you could probably get like a good cookie cutter quality of like, you know, livable one bedroom apartment home that was modern. But like, yeah, in Toronto, you're looking at least $2,000+. Maybe if you pack yourselves in with roommates, if you're at university in Toronto or Vancouver, you could do better. You could be like the Indians or Chinese and just pack yourselves, sleep on top of each other.
Dude,
Pile up, guys.
I've heard
This is the
stories
future.
where they have like rotating like rentals, where it's like they have like three people living in a bedroom in like, you know, whatever, cots or bunk beds, and then like they're taking turns using the bed. Like 3 of them will be in it for 12 hours a day, and then another 3 will take over for the next 12 hours. So they like take turns sleeping in the same beds. And like one will go work, skip the dishes for 12 hours. You know what I mean? And while they're doing that, then the other one comes in and they work, skip the dishes.
Well,
Like,
it looks like these immigrants are just
fucking-
working so much harder than us, so they deserve it, right? That's probably you know, the logic that they'd have behind
Well,
it.
that is the logic, but it's like, I'm not saying they're not working hard. Well, okay, first of all, some of them are working hard because we know, like, I think this was last year. It was like 70% of migrants after 9 years are still on some kind of social assistance. True North did a big breakdown of this like a year ago, where they like went through like all the numbers. It's like after 5 years, you know, like 80% of them are still on some kind of social assistance, right? So yeah, like and that's Henrik Beer in the chat says it's slavery. That's exactly what it is. It's modern day slavery. It's modern day serfdom.
So it's very interesting because you're saying that a large portion of them, proportion, are ending up on welfare. There's a decent chunk of them that are working harder than the host population here, but also that's adding to the competition, and it's raising the level of like the standards of living and how much you have to work in order to get any. They're basically undercutting the host population when you really think about it.
It's exactly. Joel Davis has done great breakdowns on this for Australia on his podcast, but they've shown like, you know, like quantifiably that what immigration is doing to Australia, and you can by extension just, you know, apply this to Canada because like it's very similar in terms of both the percentage of the total population per year that they're importing and the types of people they're importing. But the more immigrants they bring in, the more it drives down wages and the more it increases the cost of living. It's like a double whammy against the working class. It's a trend that repeats throughout history too. Whenever you have more people vying for jobs, it drives down the standard of living for the working class. There's nothing new about this. It's happened repeatedly.
But we are told to have blinders about it. Like, Pierre Poilievre won't even make the connection. It's absolutely pathetic. It's schizophrenic, to be honest.
You know what's funny? I saw we were listening to a Clyde Do Something thing today, and he played a video, and it said that the majority of immigrants now are voting, are like when they're polled, like first generation immigrants are now leaning conservative. And I thought, you know what? That would have surprised me maybe like 6 months ago. It doesn't surprise me at all now, because all Pierre Poilievre's done for the last 6 months is pander to fucking immigrants. There's literally no difference between them.
Right. And that's not a win.
No, it's not a win. That's what I'm saying.
Pierre is a liberal.
That's exactly what I mean.
He's a liberal in like wool in sheep's clothing, a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Exactly. And that's why I found it so funny, because, you know, I like Clyde, but Clyde was kind of playing it like, hey, look, the immigrants like Pierre. And I was like, that's not a good thing, man.
Right. There are saviors. They are against like, the woke stuff. They are the woke thing. They're coming here. That's woke. I'm awake. And
there's no woker policy than great replacement. Yeah. Okay. The great replacement is the wokest policy of them all. And
you know how
when I hear people say things like, we need the Muslims to fight the trannies, you know, because they're anti-woke. I'm like, no, they are part of the woke.
Yeah. And are you too pathetic to do it yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So Colbert's mom in the chat saying she pays $2,080 for a 1-bedroom, and that is cheap because it's a dump. So I'm guessing that's probably Toronto then. That's crazy.
Did you say 20,000?
No, 2,080.
Yeah, okay.
For a 1-bedroom.
Yeah.
And that's only because the neighborhood is a dump. Or the unit is a dump.
Crazy.
Yeah. We have a super chat over on Entropy from Dean Murdoch. Appreciate it, man. He's saying Edgy's dad kind of looks like Master Roshi. Badass.
Yo,
I don't know who that is.
Yo, bring it up.
I'm gonna look it up.
It's from Dragon Ball Z, man.
I was never a Dragon Ball Z fan. I just never got into
That is
it.
an astute observation. Who said that? That is absolutely true.
Dean Murdoch.
Yeah.
He's actually a moderator on Entropy. I rarely ever moderate anyway, so he probably changed his name. It's somebody I know, but I don't know who it is. All right. Windows share. There's Master. Yes? Okay, yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Based, manlit, old man with the beard and the goatee and the bald head, and
Yo, he's
he's crunched down.
He was a massive pervert in the show, but he was also a badass fighter.
That's probably my dad too. He's not a pervert. He's just like kind of cringe. He's like, there was this beautiful woman at the gym, and she was so good at doing squats. So I started watching her do squats, and I wanted to coach her. So I went and I told her, and I was like, Dad, don't stare at women while they do squats. That's creepy. He didn't know that it was as creepy as he's very innocent. But yes, okay, maybe Master Roshi is a bit more of a perv.
Well, he is, but he also is cringe and makes a lot of dad jokes in this show. So that's, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for that.
Yeah.
Was never a Dragon Ball. I was more Digimon, Pokemon. And then once I grew of age, like Dragon Ball Z is if you're like an anime nerd, I think. Like once you become in your teens and you're like, I still like anime. So it's like Dragon Ball Z is your thing at that point. I don't know. That hurt you a little bit.
Not really. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's an anime show, but it, like, obviously I watched it growing up. It was more my age range. Like it was very popular when I was like, I don't know, 8, 9, 10.
You're a bit older than me. Yeah. All right. Where are we going with this? Yeah, Master Roshi. We played Helen Keller or Rosa Parks. You showed my dad bailing out. Oh yeah, Oliver Anthony. I played a song at the beginning. Yeah. My buddy did an excellent punk cover. Now we're getting some new information about this. Now people were spurging out online like, is it a psyop? Everything's a psyop. I have this song fucking stuck in my head. Last night after the stream, I just started like freestyling to myself. And I was like, I pulled up my FL Studio. I re-downloaded FL Studio where I make beats. And I was like, I'm going to rap for a little bit. And then I just kept freestyling. But then I realized I'm just rapping the song like, my name's Edgy D. You can't fuck with me. And I'm Oliver fucking Anthony. Right? It's so catchy. It's like the biggest earworm. I think that's a psyop. Like, I think a bunch of Jews went into their like Jewish music chamber for controlling the minds of the goyim, and then they created this song, and they created this man, Oliver Anthony. I'm just kidding. Like, no. I don't think Jews are that smart that they could create something like this. That's just silly. That's a joke.
Yeah, I think. Are you gonna play the clip? Because maybe just.
I found this clip. So yeah. I haven't really read it through, and I guess I'll share it on stream. I haven't taken it in, but I know what he said in this. So
yeah,
this is the clip that Anthony Oliver said on Fox News that now people are like, some people are like, see, I told you he was a liberal, and I told you he was a psyop, and he's being like promoted by Con Inc., and really it's just, you know, he talks about the melting pot.
We are the melting pot of the world, and that's what makes us strong is our diversity. And
that's the worst part. That's what makes us strong, our diversity. Yeah. False.
We need to learn to harness that and appreciate it and not use it as a political tool to keep everyone separate from each other, you know? We are the melting pot of...
Maybe diversity of thought, if you have an open dialogue and you could debate things openly with free speech, but that's not clear with what he said. Like, this just sounds like the very simple, like, colorblind populism, which is, not gonna work.
Yeah, Lee just nailed it here in the chat. And this is exactly, okay, so I understood where some people, Luke Cage or Gage, is it Luke Gage?
Lucas Gage.
Yeah, Lucas Gage. He had a great take on this too, where he was like, yeah, it's a good song. It's like, that's all it is. It's a song. Like, if you can't translate the inspiration that you get from the song into action, then it's meaningless, right? And that's true. And also the people that were ripping on him and being like, he's a psyop. I was like, you guys are like that. Like you're taking this too far. So like both sides took it way too far, right? Like the people who were championing it, like it was like I don't know, the turning point of this thing. I think they oversold it. And I think the people who spurred out and said that, he's a psyop, he's like, whatever, he's I don't know, whatever you want to say, a conspiracy, I don't know. But Lee nails it. She's like, why are people putting their faith in him politically? He sang a song, for fuck's sakes. Exactly. When he said, when I saw this video, I wasn't shocked. I was like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Like, Jeremy says right here, he's a redneck musician who works at a factory. What do these faggotsburgs expect? Exactly. Like, what did you expect? You expected him to be what, like Gingler? Like some super based fucking, like what, there are no music. Like Greg Arcade is like the only musician that I know like that.
I think a lot of people on the right wing sphere, they care. They're heavily invested in this. And when you're heavily invested into like all this stuff online, yeah, you're going to have very you're going to have polarizing opinions about things, and you're going to try to separate yourself from the others by having the best opinion.
Yeah. It's just
I don't know.
Like why
are you good at doing an Irish accent? Could you maybe pretend to be Keith Woods for a second and read this tweet?
The resolution's kind of weird, but people like this guy and his fans know they're being dispossessed. They are led by people who share the liberal egalitarian values of the establishment. As they have no coherent critique of the system, they direct their frustration to imaginary caricatures of the elite, either as a monopoly men, fat cats distracting and dividing people by race, or as crazed Bond villain types who poison the water and skies just out of pure evil. This confusion was reflected well in his song.
Nice. That was well done. I didn't know that you had that good of an Irish accent. But
it was good enough to convince Phil Brown that I was the IRA, so I don't know.
You're one of them white boys. Apparently there's a group within the IRA or Irish nationalism called the White Boys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
go
cool.
look it up on Wikipedia. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's meme worthy. But either way, I don't know.
It's a pretty good take from Keith.
Yeah. Now,
people
like, were sewing out over maybe this guy is actually super really based because he had this playlist where he had like a conspiracy about the dancing Israelis within it. Now, I just want to play this quickly because apparently somebody just reposted on Rumble a classic clip that I made like 3 years ago. So I'm just going to play that quickly. Just to explain to people what's going on. Hold on.
A quick and fun, lighthearted question for you, Charlie. So I know you gave a speech in Jerusalem earlier this year.
Yes, I did.
Were there any like awesome, fun dance parties that you guys had afterwards? Because I heard that Israelis are some of the best dancers in the world. I mean, if you guys don't believe me, just Google dancing Israelis. It's insane how good they dance. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Israel's a beautiful country, a great country too.
It is. They're our greatest ally.
Correct. Thanks for being here tonight.
So I don't know. Apparently that was on his playlist. It was my video.
Are you seriously?
No, it wasn't. Oh. he had a random video about the dancing Israelis.
But again,
who were dancing and celebrating as the towers were falling, and then they got yeeted the fuck out of the country. They were like, it's a whole thing. Look up Ryan Dawson, 9/11 War by Deception.
I'm so glad you brought up Ryan Dawson because he's the example I'd give. Is like you can be aware of some of these things and not be like a nationalist. Do you get what I mean? Like Ryan Dawson is extremely intelligent, extremely well read. Like he's a fucking encyclopedia on the topic of, Jewish power and Jewish influence over, American politics. Okay. He's like, he is the go-to source. I don't care what race I don't care. Like, if you want to learn more about that stuff, then go watch his documentaries because he's done the legwork. He's done the research to actually tell you what's going on. Like I can't even, like I watched Numek, and if someone was like, well, what's the point of it? I'm like, I don't. Okay, the point is that Israel stole nuclear secrets from the American government, and if you want to know more, you have to go watch that documentary, right? So I bring that up because it's like, well, Ryan is pretty liberal, at least like in the classical sense, right? Like he's very much like more libertarian, capitalist, like he's not like a nationalist. Obviously, he lives in Korea now. So like just because this guy is maybe aware of the dancing Israeli conspiracy, that aspect of 9/11 doesn't mean that he's it doesn't mean that he's a fucking Natsock or like some kind of ultra nationalist, if that makes sense. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. Everybody wants to claim them for their own, and like any little morsel that can attach them to like confirming what honestly it's not even like our camp, it's like what we know is the truth, right? And we want him to be of that caliber. But yeah, that's just like a conspiracy to him, probably like a conspiracy, maybe, or maybe it's not true. It's one thing that specifically happened. You have to have a cohesive worldview to really understand what we're talking about, and to get above and beyond that paradigm where he is like talking about colorblind populism. Well, hell, like race realism. Race is real, and it's not just skin deep. It's not the color of your skin. It's mostly mental, and that's why Africa is the way that Africa is. That's why different countries are the way that they are. And you bring them over here, you're going to get more stuff like that. And especially if they're coming from another country to be here, and they're fleeing their country because it's bad. They might be a little bit bad. They might be a little bit of what they were fleeing from. Be here. Is that so crazy to think?
No.
And they just don't get these kinds of things. They're in like a very low level paradigm of thinking where it's all stuff that's allowed on YouTube. It's allowed on the mainstream media platforms. Like you literally have to go to Odyssey to get anything like this. Maybe Rumble, you can get a bit of it.
Yeah, it's when I don't understand whenever, especially people on our side, shit on people who aren't all the way there, because Oliver Anthony clearly is quite far along the line of understanding, right? Like he's
also it's music. It's music. Like I like it.
He wrote a song that is calling out Epstein Island and the politicians that took part in it, right? He's on a good track, at least, right? I think we can all agree on that. Like at least he's not fucking with like Lil Nas or one of these fucking Sam Smith. Okay, at least he's not that, for starters, and he's going in the right direction. And then I feel like our side always forgets, like, I wasn't where I am 5 years ago. I was like a fucking libertarian, and I can't stand libertarians now, right? But I still can like empathize and try to talk to them and explain how I've progressed in my ideology to where I am, and how to avoid the pitfalls of that ideology. So instead of shitting on this person for not being where you are in terms of how based you are, or however you want to describe it, why don't you just support them in where they're at now and try to, there's going to be people all along the spectrum, right, at any given time. And if you're further along the spectrum, if you're further ahead, it's your job to help bring people along, not shit on them so they never come to your position.
Yeah. No, I agree with that totally. Like, think about your parents, your family, your friends, the people who are not like as red-pilled as you are. Are you going to shit on them? Are you going to understand that they have compassion for you and that they have like a level of respect and understanding? And even if they don't agree with you all the time, like you need to have that give and take right there.
Bombing Frog is cheering for me here. Says, like what you do with Pleb. Pleb is different, man. He knows and he chooses not to share. That's totally different. when somebody knows more than they're letting on and chooses to ignore truths because it'll make them more popular, then they're just a faggot. Do you get what I'm saying?
I don't know. There was a lot of time that went into like your interactions with them, and then after a while, I was like, okay, well,
yeah,
we know what you're about. Yeah, we get it. Yeah, you don't care. You're exactly. A nihilist.
Yeah,
you've gone into the nihilist camp. That means that you would throw us under the bus for your own gain, for your own clout. You don't believe in the same things that we do. Simple as that.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, and that's Jeremy nailed it here. The pleb is bad faith. Exactly. There's a difference between somebody who just doesn't know, or maybe hasn't seen the information, or hasn't been hasn't had somebody challenge their ideas, versus somebody who is willfully trying to deceive and manipulate people for their own personal benefit, right? So
it looks like we have our first Dr. Jenstein donation over there on Entropy. My first donation, it's $3 and it says test. Well,
test, right on.
Test complete, A+. Me casa, your murder dungeon, my murder dungeon. I think we could get a lot of work done, Dr. Jenstein. All right. Well, I need to take a washroom break quickly. I'm going to play a remix of this song. Now, I've been thinking about doing a rap remix, especially last night, because I started freestyling, and then I realized I'm just doing Oliver Anthony. It's so stuck in my head. So I'm like, okay, maybe I should do what I used to do and kind of flip this into a trap beat. And I haven't seen that many people do a good job. Here's one right now. I haven't actually listened to it, but I know this guy does more of this like freedom type kind of rap. So I don't know if I really actually like this. I'm going to make that a disclaimer. Maybe some of you guys like this. This is very Tom McDonald tier. And I'm not a Tom McDonald fan. No. Even though I agree with a lot of things he says.
It's a damn shame. What the
okay, yeah.
world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men know the rich men, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control.
Yeah, give me freedom or give me death. To that we pledge allegiances. We the people had enough, it's time we aired our grievances against these treasonous demons. So raise the alarm, cause the pigs are fully taken over on this animal farm. Don't know anymore, this world's gotten too cold to ignore. Shit, is it 2023 or 1984? Thought police up at my door to open fire on me, but I'd rather die on my feet than survive on my knees. And please, we know how they looking at us from up at the top. The tougher they made it for us, the fucking tougher we got. They thought they'd keep us scared forever, but fuck it, we not. We'll send them back to north of Richmond in some cuffs or a box.
Bow. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men know the rich men, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control.
Behind the politicians, there's a far more sinister villain that's power-driven. Only answer to money is their religion. They controlling the way that we live in, keeping us mentally stuck in a prison, so that the fire they know is rebellion never can spread whenever it's risen. But they've been seeing us waking up, and now they fucking afraid. As we the people get to seeing through their fucking charade. We're being played by these elites who would rather see us enslaved, as they lead us by the hand where the land's dug with a grave. And they could kill our character through stories they publish, or they'll just murder us and brand it as suicide to the public, or an accidental overdose. Print the story, run it, say it's fact, so people trust it, accept it, and move on from it. But it's time to pick a side and get to striking a nerve. In any way we're able, I'm fighting this fight with my words. And if they keep pushing, then fuck it, we inciting a purge. And just to think, all we wanted was the rights we deserve.
It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Living in the new world
I don't know. I missed the whole song because I just got back to it.
It's not my stuff. I don't know. It's
what
good
the chat
lyrics.
says.
The guy's lyrics are good. I don't know. Not a huge fan of the style, I guess.
Needs more face tattoo. I agree. All right. Well, let's get on to a different topic. How about them residential schools, right?
Bro.
That's probably not the best way to broach the topic.
I mean, I think it is the best way to approach it. Well, what do you mean? You mean the residential schools? Because obviously, yeah, I guess that's not great, but
well, it's sounding like Jerry Seinfeld when I say it. How about them residential schools? I mean, what's the deal with those? Not one bone? I don't know, man. Like, they're really trying to push this in the news. I don't know if they're gonna get what they want out of it. So, we saw this like last month. First Nations spends day in ceremony to launch dig for potential unmarked graves. So they do all these things like these pipe ceremonies, and they have these rituals to like basically, I don't know, memorialize and I don't know exactly what they're doing. They're trying to make it a thing where they're respecting the dead, I guess. So they had these things burning, these ritual burnings for like over a month just to excavate these properties. Meanwhile, we're trying to find the truth to see if there's actually anybody buried under there, right? With these anomalies.
well, I can guarantee you this: the more of these excavations and these forensic digs are done, the less of them will be done, because they will continue to not find anything, and then they will stop doing them because the grift will be over. This is a massive it's just like anything else. Like, you know how Germany is still paying Holocaust survivors and their descendants? Yeah, that'll go on for generation after generation after generation if, you know, this myth is allowed to proliferate.
Right. Well, what is exactly what they're saying? Like, I don't get it. That there was a genocide of Indian children at residential schools. So what are the facts? We know that, like, the government and especially the Catholic schools and institutions had these children shipped off to their schools. And I think, I don't know the exact percentage of each that were forced or that were done voluntarily, but they definitely got an education in order to like assimilate into the society that had been created by like the British colonizers, the new Canadians, right?
Well, I mean, again, it's...
But then they're saying that, like, yes, they did get their own culture eradicated a bit, and like they were teaching them the new Canadian culture. So I don't know if you could really call that genocide, that you're teaching somebody a new culture. Maybe they weren't allowed to practice their own culture within these boarding schools that they were at. Maybe you could say that that's like erasing their culture in some context that lends credence to like the claim of genocide, right?
Again, it's one of these things that I find kind of fascinating, because at the time, this is what I've tried to.
Yeah, sorry. They also want access to our society.
Yeah.
So they need to be educated with, you know, they could stay on their own Indian grounds, on their own native grounds, and they could stay there and they could have their own reservations. But if they want to participate with the rest of society, they need to learn all these things that are going to help them prosper within society.
Dude, there's a few things here, but yeah, you're absolutely right about that. There's a reserve very close to Calgary, Tsuut'ina Nation, and it's indistinguishable from any other part of the city, except for the fact that you have, you know, this what do you call it? They're writing that didn't exist until after the white man came here and showed them what writing was. So then they made up their own alphabets and stuff to have, anyways, that on stop signs and on street signs, that's the only difference. They have Costco. They have fucking Dairy Queens and KFCs. Like they have all the, whatever, Petro cans and all the others, right? It's exactly the same. So like, I don't know if you go to other places, like Siksika Nation. Yeah. They don't have any of that. And it's terrible. Sutina is a very, it's doing very well for a reservation. And then some of the other ones you go to are terrible. Why? Because some of them have adapted and some of them haven't. That's the only difference. But the other thing too that I find so interesting about residential schools is that like that's like the liberal solution of the time period. This is I tried to explain this to my sister's friend once because she was like, yeah, but like residential schools were terrible. It was so awful what they did now. And I was like, well, what's your solution now? And she's like, well, we need to do this, this, and this. I was like, yeah, and that's exactly how the people at the time period thought too. They thought exactly like you did. They thought that they knew better and that they should tell them what they have to do and that they should, find ways to integrate them into the society. And that was the solution they came up with. And now you want to do the exact same thing, but with more modern sensibilities applied to it. And in 50 years, whenever the new liberal, the new bleeding heart fucking yuppies are looking back at what you did, they're going to say, I can't believe that we thought that was the solution. The correct solution is to let them be their own people and to not meddle in their affairs, if that's what you want to do. And if that's not what you want to do, then just go full out and be like, yeah, no, we're not doing this reserve system anymore. How about that? It doesn't make any sense. It's one or the other. You can't do both. You can't meddle in their affairs constantly and support them constantly and expect them to be independent. And you can't. And if you're going to cut the cord, then cut the fucking cord. It's one or the other.
Yeah. Like, to be honest, I was trying to be charitable for the leftist interpretation of what's going on to say that maybe it's potentially a genocide because some of the children may have been forced to be taken from the parents to go to this boarding school. I'm sure a lot of the parents, like a high percentage of them, wanted them to go and get educated so that they could prosper in the rest of society, right? But, like, the disconnect, the cognitive dissonance of what they are implying actually happened, that what? Catholic nuns, like female and male, but especially female nun teachers, were like mass murdering little kids? Like, what are you even saying?
No.
Walk us through what your thesis is on what happened. It's insane.
So if there's an argument for genocide, it's like the soft genocide. Like according to UN, basically what they're doing to white European countries now is basically which is meets the UN definition of genocide, right? Demographic replacement is a form of soft genocide. That's the argument that you could make of like stripping them of their culture, like that kind of thing, right? Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at stripping them of their culture. I'm laughing at Rage in the chat saying, "Non-waffen, Edgy! Non-waffen! Denier of non-waffen!" Like, what do they think happened? Like, these nuns are so sadistic, they're just murdering children? Like, disease was rampant at these times. Like, that could...
typhus, fucking Spanish flu, all that shit ripped through there, right? Polio.
Now, I'm not saying measles, that there could have been neglect or, maybe some manslaughter with, like, mishandling of these kids. But that happens all around. And what they're implying goes far beyond that. And we're not allowed to say anything. I'm not allowed to say what I'm saying right now. Apparently, according to the NDP, who are trying to make residential school denial illegal. That's crazy.
Nobody's denying residential schools. They're denying these mass graves. That's the denial aspect of it. And again, it's a clever little trick that they're trying to play on people. Because if I say, yeah, there are no mass graves, there's no evidence of that. You haven't shown me one bone. You haven't shown me one, even like multiple grave, like of like two people buried in one grave. Like you haven't even shown me that. You've shown me some fucking ground scans with some anomalies that have turned out to be fucking rocks in one scenario. But what they're trying to do is make it so that like if you deny the mass graves, then you're also denying residential schools. So like this kind of like it's kind of like what they did with the Holocaust, right? Whenever they say like, you know, if you want to engage in mitigation. So for example, if you say, yeah, it wasn't 6 million, it was, you know, 5,950,000, all of a sudden that's illegal, right? If I was to say that in Canada and seriously say that, like that I believe that it was 5 million, not 6 million, that's a form of Holocaust denial. It's the same thing they're doing here. This kind of like bait and switch. Like if you try to reduce, you know, the amount of damage that was done, that you're engaging in some kind of denialism, this historical denialism, which again, any attempt to say, I don't care what it is. I don't care what, if somebody wants to say, I don't believe, like, you know, they do this in China too with the rape of Nanking. Japan, there's still Japanese scholars who claim that like only 45 Chinese people were killed in the rape of Nanking, which is fucking absurd, right? Like just obviously false. But you know, if you want to say that, nobody cares, or at least nobody's going to put you in jail for saying that. If I was to say I believe only 45 Chinamen died in the rape of Nanking, nobody's going to put me in jail for that.
Probably because then you could just continue with the dialogue and then you get put in your place because it's so obviously false, right? Now, do you think that this residential school denial bill is actually going to get put through? Because I don't think so. I think this is some posturing from the left. And the reason I think that is because we have a lot of like academics and conservatives, like, you know, Con Inc. types in Canada. And a lot of several of them have done articles within the National Post, which is part of the system. So I think this is like a rebel position to take that's still within the position.
I disagree.
And you have this website here, the Indian Residential Schools Research Group, and you look at the people who are involved. I haven't really looked through what all their credentials are, but these are like academics. You also have Barbara Kay, who's like a long-standing National Post, you know, Sun Media, Rebel News type person. So I think there's enough pushback on this that
I disagree.
At least, no, they're going to make this illegal. Are they going to arrest Barbara Kay and all these?
I don't know about arrest people, but I do think it's absolutely conceivable that they will make it illegal. And here's how it would play out politically. So the NDP is the one that's really floating around the idea. The Liberals are on board with it, but they need to act like it was the NDP's idea. They will vote for it, right? Now, the question is whether or not there will be any pushback from conservatives. And the answer is obviously fucking not. They will absolutely vote for it.
They will cower at anything to do with like any racial group.
Yep. And so
like it's absolutely pathetic. Like this is woke, Pierre. This is woke.
The reason why it will pass is because there's not a single one of those 338 that has the balls to stand up and be like, this is horse shit. There's not one. So if that bill gets introduced, even as a private member's bill, like if it's introduced by a single MP, it will pass.
Well, I'll give you an example of something that happened recently. Now, you actually corrected me on this, and I thought I was the free speech expert, but you told me no, it is illegal to deny, downplay, or condone the Holocaust in Canada. And I knew that they were trying to slip this through into the budget bill, but they just did it and it got royal assent. Like last year? That's crazy. Yeah. So now the current hate speech laws in Canada, there's 319, which says that you have that's willful promotion of hatred. And then there's another one where it's like it's something like there's another subset of it where it's like another hatred bill, like you're trying to commit genocide or something, or they think that you're doing genocidal propaganda. But now they added this in. This is law. Willful promotion of anti-Semitism. Everyone who, by communicating statements other than in private conversation, willfully promotes anti-Semitism by condoning, denying, or downplaying the Holocaust is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years, or is guilty of an offense punishable on a summary conviction. Well, so what does it mean to condone, deny, or especially downplay? Downplay, that sounds very subjective.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what it is. And sorry, when you first read that, I was like, holy shit, condoning. I read that as by condoning people denying the Holocaust. So like if you were to say like you should be able, to me that translated to if you say that people should be able to deny the Holocaust, that in and of itself is an offense. But I don't think
well,
that's
who's
what it
to
means.
say that isn't that? Because
I know,
are
but
you not tacitly downplaying the Holocaust by lending any credence whatsoever to that argument? Because that's what the people who are promoting these kinds of laws and have this kind of ideology, that's exactly what they would say about you. That's what they'd say about me for even bringing this up.
Yeah, but I think what
are you going to come seize all our equipment? Like, what is going on here? This is absolutely insane. We cannot stand for this.
I think, though, what it means here is, if you scroll back, I think when it says by condoning, I think it means like if you say they were.
No, I know like, what that means. Like,
yeah.
If you condone the Holocaust, but
yeah.
But the key word here is nobody's denying the Holocaust. It obviously happened, but downplaying. That's where you get into some very murky territory. Because scholars, it's been a process for them to even figure out exactly what happened. And hell, if you don't think that the same thing that the experts, the experts that have told us what our reality is for the last century, if you don't believe in what the experts have to say about this, then you should go to jail? Absolutely unacceptable.
Yeah, and this bill was introduced by the conservatives.
Yeah, Kevin Wog, I think he's a conservative MP in Saskatchewan. He first proposed this like within a member's bill or something like that, and it wasn't going to go anywhere. But then he was happy to hear, you see this in all the news articles, he was happy to hear that it's just going to get fast-tracked through without any public scrutiny. This is just law now.
Yep. Yeah, and that's why I say, so when it comes to the residential school denialism or whatever they want to call it, residential mass grave denial, I don't know. It will absolutely pass, despite the fact, look, a good comparison of this would be like the wildfires, right? So Rebel News, True North, Western Standard, they have no problem being like, yeah, some of these are arsons. Like a lot of these are arsons. They're openly challenging the kind of liberal, whatever leftist narrative in the country that is, this is climate change causing these wildfires. Their media apparatus has no problem, challenging it and saying like, yeah, most of these are actually arsons. They're not caused by climate change, none of them are caused by climate change, right? But the conservatives, there's not a single one, not one of the whatever they have, 108 or 110 MPs that they have in the House of Commons, has the balls to say that, yeah, this is actually not climate change, it's arsons. They've had many opportunities. In fact, Pierre had one yesterday. He was Catherine McKenna called the conservatives arsonists for not supporting the carbon tax, and Pierre Poilievre responded to that by saying, well, I found a great way to do a Pierre voice. You just plug your nose.
Well, I don't really see how carbon taxes are going to stop climate change.
He had the perfect opportunity to just say like, yeah, actually most of these fires are arsons, and that's it. Like he could have listed off all of the numerous from, how many different provinces, BC, Alberta, Nova Scotia, Quebec, they've all found instances of arsons being the cause of these wildfires. He could have said that. They're like, yeah, they're clearly arsons. What are you talking about? That's nonsense. To just say the truth. And he didn't. So do you think he's going to do that, or that any of the conservatives are going to do that when it comes to residential school mass graves? No, there won't be a single one that challenges the leftist narrative. They'll just go along with it.
I get what you're saying. It was such an easy slam dunk.
Yeah,
And it's
it's so easy for them right now to just be like, yeah, clearly these mass graves are a hoax, and that's not to deny or mitigate the suffering that some of these indigenous people had in residential schools, but to say that they were being systematically murdered in residential schools is preposterous. They were not. They were not buried in mass graves. They weren't genocided. They weren't liquidated. That's nonsense. And to say otherwise is not only a disservice to them, because you're basically trying to use their suffering as political clout, and two, it's not fair to the history of this country because you're putting this massive black stain on it unduly. It doesn't deserve it. The people of Canada don't deserve this fucking falsified black stain on our national history for something that didn't fucking happen, that there's no proof of.
Okay, so I honestly don't think that this law is going to get pushed through anytime soon, that NDP proposed about residential school denialism. However, the Holocaust denial bill has been pushed through, without any oversight, without any backlash. It's just here, let me show you how the timeline of how this happened. So this is a law now. In 2022, they just told you on CTV News, Holocaust denial and downplaying the Nazis' murder of Jews is to be outlawed in Canada. So they just tell you that it's going to go through. The budget earmarked $5.6 million over 5 years to support this guy's office. It's like the envoy of anti-Semitism. And Mental Marco Mendocino said there's no place for anti-Semitism and Holocaust denial in Canada. That's why we pledge to prohibit the willful promotion of anti-Semitism through condoning, denying, or downplaying the Holocaust. The Holocaust was one of the blah, 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 blah. And it talks about, what you said before about this conservative MP, Kevin Wog, who initially put forth this private members bill. And he loved that they just fast-tracked this through. This conservative, he loved that they just fast-tracked this too. He just fast-tracked this through the legal process without any oversight, without any, what is it called again? Democracy? Okay, so there are limits on free speech, right? You can't go tell somebody, I want you to go kill that person. That's incitement to violence, right? That's unacceptable. We all know that. However, saying, hey, I don't think it was 6 million, or hey, I don't think that it happened the way that they're trying to tell me, and I have these professors who are giving this evidence here, here, and here, and you put them in prison. You didn't allow them to debate anybody about it. That's illegal? There's something wrong with that. Guys, wake up. This is the hill that you die on for free speech.
I 100% agree. Unfortunately, the hill has already been taken.
Yeah, the hill has been taken, but I don't know what to do from here on out. But guys,
dude, it's so hard to even broach. I can't even tell you how many conservatives CPC supporters I had this discussion with at various points over the last year, and I was like, yeah, the conservatives. Pierre Poilievre is up there, defending Jordan Peterson's right to free speech. And then 2 weeks later, okay, this is this year in 2023, okay, in the middle of January of 2023, Pierre Poilievre is up there saying he will always defend Canadians' right to free speech. And then 2 weeks later, on the anniversary, I don't know, whatever it is, one of the 400,000 different, Holocaust memorial days, or whatever it is, Jewish Memorial Days. He's saying, this conservative
government introduced legislation to ban Holocaust denialism in Canada.
He's bragging about how his party silenced free speech.
He did that?
Yeah. There's a clip of it, man.
Please send me the clip. Please send me that clip later.
Yeah.
I will make use of that. That is unacceptable. My God. Free speech is just out the window.
And
you know, you're not trying to hurt people or kill people. Like, that's absurd, and they're trying to equate that, like, with you having opinions about history. It's absurd.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, though, is I brought this up to conservatives, and their response was usually, well, so what? Like, Holocaust denial is fucking dumb. And I was like, I don't care if you think that, because you do know the next one on the list is the mass grave denialism. And then they're so fucking dumb because their response is, well, I mean, residential schools did happen, so like, why shouldn't it be? I'm like, you're an idiot. Because you know what comes after that? You know what comes next? The you know those laws that the NDP wanted to introduce in Ontario for the trannies? Yeah, that's next. Mm-hmm. And slowly but surely, they will make every social argument that you want to debate them about illegal to even take your position. And then what are you going to do, you idiot?
And it was already lost from the beginning.
I know, but
they don't get it. Yeah, once you weren't allowed to have a certain opinion, like, you're not. Hey, if you actually believe something happened in the past, and you're not allowed to express that, or else you're gonna go to jail and you're gonna be accused of trying to kill people. That does not make any sense. And that is, like, trying to colonize your mind. It's trying to, like, brainwash you. It's intimidation. It's violence against your mind, your free speech, your dignity as a person to think how you want to think. Yes, you could think that it's okay to kill people. You could be a psychopath. But if you go through with that, you're going to go to jail. You're going to be arrested for murder. Yet these people think that they have, like, a monopoly on information, and then like some kind of weird godlike dictation that they could tell you that you're a bad person for thinking a certain thing. Absolutely unacceptable. They want to talk about ending democracy. They want to talk about dictators, fascists, authoritarians, and all the like. That is exactly what they are.
Sorry, he wanted some attention. Hey, big boy.
Oh, that's good. You got to show some love for your family, you know. Yeah. Me and my dad, I did the ride. You and Schreider, you gave him the pets.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, I want to show you I want to show you this lawyer here. And like some group chat, somebody showed him, someone shared one of his videos, and he's apparently got like a trilogy of free speech videos, and he's released 2 so far. 2 out of 3, and he's going to release another video about free speech in Canada as part of this trilogy. So I want to share these videos because they're only about 10 minutes, and I'm going to play them on like 1.25 speed, but this is really good quality stuff that we could comment on. And it's going to really inform our audience, I think. So this guy's channel is called Don't Talk TV. He really wants to get to 10,000 subscribers, in which he will grow that handlebar mustache again. Okay, so that's his goal. He's like a professional lawyer. You could call him. You could hire him. But what's best about him is that he's absolutely fucking based, and his takes are really good. So let's hear him out. And he lives in Stratford, Ontario.
Last week on Don't Talk TV, when I was discussing why I use Signal, Proton Mail, and Cash, I suggested that there's one particular group of people in Canada that need to be especially careful about their privacy because they can be targeted just for happening to have some pride or some love for their own heritage. So I want to follow up on that in the next few episodes. In fact, it'll end up being a trilogy culminating in a live broadcast where I'll be talking with Maxime Bernier, the leader of the People's Party. I want to drill down on that a bit more and look at acts that are objectively clearly hateful, that are not prosecuted or not found to be hateful, and the sort of acts that are deemed to be hateful by our government. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Remember, if we make it to 10,000 subscriptions on YouTube by the end of the year, I've promised to regrow my handlebar mustache.
Absolutely based. Okay, so you guys already know that this guy is epic. So, just preemptively, I'm going to drop his YouTube channel in the chat. In each chat, and I also got to read some super chats before we get further into this topic, because you guys have been very generous tonight. Appreciate it. So over on Entropy, Jenstein gave a first test super chat for $5, and now he gave another one for $25. I really appreciate it, Jenstein. That $25 is gonna go towards a new torture item for Edgy's murder dungeon.
There you go.
Wait, hold on a second. Barry, is that copyright infringement?
No,
we're
that's
getting
fine.
into law. We're getting into law. Oh, shit. Well, I might just put on my yarmulke, get out my blade, and do a couple circumcisions myself, because Jenstein just gave me $25, and I think I could afford it now. All right. So thank you very much, Jenstein, for that USD 25. So that's like at least $40 or $50 Canadian. Really appreciate that. M1 Dots with USD 10 again, saying yardstick murders. Okay, I get what he's saying. Yardstick murders. Fucking nuns. The most angry teacher next to a lefty. Okay, hold on. Let me go on solo screen while I read these. So on Entropy, M1 Dot says, yardstick murders. Fucking nuns. The most angry teacher next to a lefty. So I guess he's trying to create a scenario where it coincides with like the schizophrenic leftist view of what nuns were doing to these Indian children, to these native children. Yardstick, like, because they would probably discipline them with straps and yardsticks. Like, that's probably what they're doing. And hell, that happened to all kids. My dad told me a story about how when he was growing up in Montreal in a Catholic school, there was one retard kid who, like, during this math test, the Catholic teacher, the nun or the priest or whoever it was, said, for every question you get wrong on this math test, you get a strap on your hand. And this fucking retard got 49 of the 50 questions wrong. And then he's like, oh, I'm sorry, my hand hurts after writing it. And they were like, okay, so we'll do all 50 straps, all 49 straps on the other hand. So, yeah, this shit happened to everybody. So, yes, you could make like some kind of horror story out of anything like that. And especially if you were dying from disease as well, as what happened all throughout the 20th century to people of all sorts. So M1 Dot saying, yardstick murderers, fucking nuns. Yeah. Like, what is going on? Nun genocide? Were they beating kids to death with yardsticks? Guys, this sounds insensitive, but holy shit. What is really insensitive is the fact that they're, for one, making Indian children and native people in general thinking that they were part of such a sick genocide, that they were victims and hated that much. That's sick, for one. And two, and more importantly, framing white Christian Catholic or whatever else Canadians and like making them implicit in that kind of sick genocidal murder. Guys, it just didn't happen. Stick up for yourself any chance you have.
It didn't happen yet.
Oh, okay, now you're condoning, and that's
I'm ready though.
That's definitely against the law. Okay, well, if you get a tomahawk thrown against your head, I will definitely back you up, bro. So M1 Dot, appreciate the super chat. A perception, yeah, on Entropy saying some Austrians have taken the white flight far east from Austria. Now, the question is how long until they follow us out there too? That's literally our main concern as we go through everything to leave and hope to leave them behind too again. I don't know what he's saying here. So Austrians are doing white flight from far. They're going east into Austria to get away from all the refugees and the migrants in Austria, and they're concerned about the migrants following them to where they've fled to. Okay, no, I get that. Interesting. So I'm guessing this person has a German background because they have a specific affinity to Austria here. But yeah, it's happening all over, and you can't get away from it. Because the currency is access to white people. And I think there's also like a sick thing where they get one over on you. And if they could like colonize your mind, then that's a plus in the elite's playbook.
So you just, I think we talked about this last night, like access to white people when it comes to like things like South Africa. The same thing is true for Canada. Because if you throw out the offer, to Indigenous people, or you just float the idea, it's like, well, maybe the answer is to just like, truly let them be, they have complete domain over their own reserves. Like they own the land, they own the mineral rights, they are their own people, they have their own government, they have complete control, right? Complete sovereignty over that territory. If you float that line out, it's not just, the bleeding heart liberals that will oppose you on it. It's the native tribes themselves. Why? Because they know what that would mean. That would mean no more fucking, lump sum bailouts. That would mean
taking away access to white people is genocide, according to them. Like
that's exactly
everything
how
is fucking screwy, man.
And then also the same thing too.
Hold on, I got to step up for a second. So keep preaching, brother.
Yeah. So it the reverse is the same as well. If you were to say, as white people, like, you know what, we don't really want to be part of this anymore, we'll go make our own reserves and we'll just stay on them. That would also be opposed as, some kind of, white ethno state. That's completely inconceivable. So really what they want is they want white people to just do what they say, and they want them to be second-class citizens while they do it, but they want them to do everything for them. That's really what it is. It's what it boils down to over and over again. South Africa is the perfect example of that. They don't actually want the white people to all leave. They don't actually want to genocide them all. They just want to terrorize them enough so that they're subservient, and they do everything that needs to be done for them to keep the state running while having none of the power, essentially. What's going on in the chat here? This is my Bowie knife. It's pretty big. It's not as big as my machete, but it's pretty big. I don't know. Did the chat freeze? No. Okay. Martin Luther says, please, gents, don't fly too close to the sun. I like having your content. See, are we getting too spicy? I don't even think we're being that spicy. Bombing Frog says South Africa is falling apart, rolling blackouts since it has been managed by locals. Yeah, 100%. You should actually post this too. There was a Nordic Frontier podcast did another episode today with a South African guy. I haven't had a chance to listen to it yet, but the last one they did with Jan Lamprecht was very good. A lot of good insight as to what's going on. Also, Lana from Red Ice did an interview with William, I think his name is Willem Petzer, who's also very enlightening too. Merc 306 says get rid of the Indian Act 100%. And as far as I know, Maxime Bernier is the only one who has that as part of their political platform. It should be abolished, renegotiated. I don't know what, but it clearly doesn't work. It clearly is not solving problems. But again, it's like I said earlier, it has to go one where either we stop this kind of like I don't know what you would call it, like this toxic parental relationship that we have with them, where it's like somehow our responsibility to make sure that their reserves are like, a suitable living standard, or we need to just admit that like the reserve idea and them having sovereignty is, untenable, and that it just shouldn't exist, and that these municipalities or whatever the reserves, the treaty territories should be turned into municipalities like any other and treated as such. Like it's one or the other.
Like yeah, you try to help them in any way, and either way you're just gonna get denigrated. You're not gonna get anywhere with them.
It has to go completely one way or the other. This kind of middle of the road, like I said, either you have complete sovereignty over your own territory and you take total responsibility for it, and basically you're your own little nation, right? And we're not gonna pay for it anymore. Like you run your own, like you would run your own county or municipality. You run that reserve. And don't come asking the federal government to pay for, whatever your clean water. Like you guys got to figure it out. Or two, you give up that kind of quasi sovereignty that you have, and you become a county or a jurisdiction like any other, where the federal government has say in what's going on your land, where the provincial government has a say in how your land is used, and you receive the benefits of being part of that federal system, that provincial system. It's one or the other.
Well, thanks for preaching that. I'm gonna read the rest of the super chats here. Jen Steen gives another $10, saying Cesis is still trying to connect. We need a few minutes, sir. Hey, I think my phone is being bugged. Is your phone being bugged? It's doing weird things. I'm doing weird things. I don't know. Things are getting weird out here. I don't really care. Cesis, you can go fuck yourself. I'm just telling the truth out here. You could log all my streams all you want. I've seen what you've done. Edgy D shouts out Colbert's mom. Okay, fuck off. Yeah, they be creeping out there, man. A perception says for $3, I think boars should come with us and access some climate change on the way out for their friends who had previously accomplished nothing. Fair is fair. The smoke jumpers used to set fires too. I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, no, do I.
Okay, well, I appreciate the super chat. And on Rumble, we have a couple. Long Meadow says, come on now. Baby Billy's Bible bunkers. Okay, you're giving me a tongue twister here. Come on now. Baby Billy's Bible bunkers, thinking you two boys could be some righteous gemstones. Praise the Lord. Okay, well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I don't know what that means, but I do feel like I'm godly. Uncle Kenny says, follow Jim McMurty on Twitter. He was fired from teaching for talking about residential schools. Okay, yeah, Jim McMurty01 on Twitter. Check him out. Nuns invented Zyklon B. Okay, yeah. I appreciate all the super chats, and yes, I'm working on a shoestring budget. All the super chats really do help me live day to day and produce these shows that I'm doing right now, and have enough time to do the research too. So I want to get into more of this content here. This lawyer here, he really does have some good things to say, and I want to play 2 of his videos all the way through on a bit faster speed. They're about 10 minutes each. However, we could stop and talk about things that he's saying. They're very intelligent, and it leads to so much more conversation. I really do like this guy, and I'm excited to see what the third video. Sorry, what?
You just got this guy an anti-hate article.
Oh, sorry, Don't Talk TV. He's not going to talk. He's going to get the email. He's not going to talk. So I've only listened to his free speech videos. So I went through his whole channel, and I was looking for like the hate speech stuff and like the very like free speech stuff. But I saw so many other good things that I would be interested in, like how people should use Signal, like the app where it's like more anonymous, right? Or how you just don't talk, as they say, to don't talk to police, how you should conduct yourself around police. And knowing what he said about the hate speech issues and how clear-minded and intelligent and ideologically sound he is, I think he's great on all the rest of the shit. Because when you get a lot of this law stuff, especially in Canada, you get a lot of retarded shit about like free men on the land and sovereign citizen, and if I just invoke the Magna Carta, like I could just destroy the rest of the Canadian justice system. Like I'm above the law. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not. That's fucking retarded.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. So I've suggested that there's one particular group in Canada that doesn't enjoy full protection of the law and is held to a higher standard, is more likely to be charged with hate crimes than anyone else. Let's just get out in the open and say it. It's white Canadians, especially those of a Christian background.
Why is it so hard for any other politician or person in public life to say something like that? You have a lawyer here. He's a professional. And he
Probably
just
not
goes
for
out
long.
and says it.
Honestly, saying like shit like this could get him what is it, disbarred?
I'd like to see them disbar him for this. This is why we need to make calculated decisions with professionality. Hey, me and you, we're not professionals.
No.
I have a few White Claws when I stream. You have a good time and you stream, and we do it like a stream of conscious thing here. With us, we try to tell jokes. We try to inform people. We try to cultivate community. Hey, we are strategic in our own way, but this is a professional right here, and he is part of a professional institution, and I think he's crushing it. Hell, come after this guy. Hey, like establishment, the elites, come after this guy. I'd like to see how that would go down.
Looking at that, today on today's episode, we're going to firstly look at some incidents of things that I believe are clearly anti-white or anti-Christian hate crime. Then we will look at the state's response to that. And then thirdly, we'll look at a particular case where the state expended massive resources to hunt down someone who's essentially a meme maker and charge him with terrorism and hate crime offenses. Back in episode 46, I highlighted the ongoing crimes of...
It's not you.
Ah,
Ferryman, like, that's the thing, is I want you guys to start compiling, like, a persuasive case for Jeremy. No, I don't mean persuasive as in like you're trying to package it for him to like think positively of Jeremy, but I'm thinking that we should get people to email him responsibly about especially the Nova Scotia case to see what his professional opinion is on this case, and he will tell it whether he agrees with Jeremy or not. I think he will give his professional opinion without like trying to suck up to Jeremy in any way.
The burning of Christian churches. At that time, it was only a dozen churches. Now we're up to 83. You may be shocked to hear that because that is nowhere to be seen or heard on legacy media. But if we look to alternate media, we can find this information. So this is...
It's not Alex. Yet.
yeah.
I mean, the guy who was making those memes was a bit more terroristic or terroristical.
Oh, is he talking about the Adam Waffen guy?
Yeah, Patrick
okay,
McDonald. Yeah. And even then, it's just like, okay, it's cringe. It's like, but was he really inciting violence? He was just doing art for like a cringe
Wasn't it just Natsock art, like intense Natsock?
I think most
art?
of it was, but Adam Waffen Division does have a LARP element to them where they're like,
yeah,
oh, like we're willing to do whatever it takes.
Dude, they're not Active Club.
Yeah, they're not Active Club.
They're like what do they call? They're the Siege, right?
The Siege retards. Yeah.
Yeah, like and whatever. I don't think books should be illegal either, but like that's they took this. I forget who wrote it, the book Siege, and then they applied it to like all of their politics, and it was basically like we're gonna like it was straight up their manifesto, right? Like we're gonna commit acts of terrorism.
Right. We're going to blow up like a train line or something, and that's going to help the white race somehow.
Yeah.
And we're going to be super badass, and like we're going to get off to how badass we are. That's what it seems like. And I don't think this guy doing art
but you see that's what's fucked up
is a criminal offense. Sorry, it just doesn't cut it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Like, yes, if you go and do these things, you're plotting them, you're conspiring to do them, and there's evidence and they stopped you, then okay, yes. If you're telling people to do this specifically, you're inciting it, then yes, that's a crime. It's called incitement to commit violence. But you got to prove that. There's a lot of stuff you got to prove. Well, likewise, I do not agree with these siege tards, these fucking like crazy people.
Yeah.
I agree with people who understand like that individualism is not where it's at. Like, yes, you can have individualism, but you should also have like a community behind you, right? And race, religion, ideology is all a part of that.
This is an article from True North News. They have a map of the 83 churches that have been vandalized or burned since the residential schools announcement. So I say here that 83 Christian churches have been vandalized, burned down, or desecrated since the announcement of the apparent discovery of graves found near a residential school in Kamloops, BC. I pause to note that no bodies and no evidence of actual graves have been found at this point, a couple of years later. So here's a map showing all the churches across Canada that have been burned to the ground or desecrated. I'll put a link to this in the show description, but you can see for yourself the numerous churches that have been targeted. Churches aren't the only thing that are being targeted, though. Other aspects of Canadian heritage, especially if it has an association with the European heritage and background, have been the target of similar attacks. In that same episode that I've referenced, episode 46, I mention a large protest in Winnipeg, Manitoba, that culminated in the tearing down of a statue of Queen Victoria at the legislature, where one person was arrested, and the one person who was arrested was a counter-protester who was trying to stop them from tearing down the statue. Winnipeg and Manitoba are certainly not the only places where this sort of thing has happened. I have this CBC article titled Victoria Statue in Kitchener's Victoria Park vandalized for 6th time in 3 years. You can see what was done to the statue here. It says the Queen Victoria statue in Kitchener's Victoria Park has been vandalized once again. This marks the 6th time red paint was splattered on the statue in 3 years. It says it'll cost the city of Kitchener $3,000 to clean it up, and the city has notified Waterloo Regional Police Service, but police have not yet confirmed whether they will be investigating the incident. The fact
they do not care whether they're going to be investigating.
The fact that Waterloo Regional Police may not even investigate this segues into the next part of this video, where we look at what is the state's response to these sorts of incidents. Well, firstly, dealing with the church burnings, here is what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had to say.
One of my reflections is I understand the anger that's out there against the federal government, against institutions like the Catholic Church. It is real, and it is fully understandable given the shameful history that we're all becoming more and more aware of and engaging ourselves to do better as Canadians.
Now, he did say in that same interview that he did condemn the burning of churches, that he felt this is a bad thing.
That is about the burning of dozens and dozens of churches, of religious places of worship for the founding stock of Canada. And that is what he had to say about it?
Then he went on to essentially justify it. Now, we can also look to the courts.
Justify it, saying that there's righteous anger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these things, they don't register into the minds of the average person who does not analyze propaganda. It might even emotionally tear up people who just take it for what it's worth and say, hey, I am justified. Maybe more churches should burn.
It's actually much more despicable and disgusting that they're doing. I talked, my sister was out here recently, right? She works in education, And so she told me that the past year, the school year of 2021, 2022, she works in an elementary school. They had 4 different Indigenous speakers come into the school to lecture them about how many injustices that, they have done to the Indigenous. But basically, every day they have their land acknowledgement over the loudspeaker, right? Instead of the national anthem and the Our Father, they do the land acknowledgement, right? So it's bad enough that they're pushing this propaganda on Canadian adults. It's like, dude, they're doing it in schools and parents aren't even being told about it. They're being told, like, again, it's like this original sin that, like, if you are a white kid, you have original sin. It's not just white either, really, when it comes to this stuff. She kind of told me, like, it's like, basically, if you're here, you have to fucking kiss our feet and worship us because we were here first. It's like, well, fuck you. You didn't build any, like, I think Joel Davis said this the other day, because they have the same things going on with their, they call them
in Australia, right? Yes, the Australian Aboriginals. Yeah, and I think honestly they've done even less in Australia. The Australian Aboriginals, I don't know what's up with them, but they have on some other. The Maoris, they're on some other shit.
Well, it's not the Maoris. That's New Zealand. Like, they're like South Polynesians, right? Like Samoans and stuff like that. They're more, but the Indigenous Australians, dude, they're like, they have one of the lowest IQs on the planet as a race of people, like sub 70 IQs all around. Like, they're not, Andrew Simpson, average IQ of 62. Like, they are not very well suited to exist in a modern civilization. Yeah. It's just the reality of it.
I would like to throw a bit of money if they weren't sucking us dry, like if the establishment wasn't sucking us dry. In a good world, we would be able to help them along and help them progress so that they could sustain themselves in a way, right? And we could be charitable to them in their unfortunate situation, insofar as that's who they are, right? Yeah. But instead, like, there's this hilarious thing that I saw on Joel Davis's Telegram where it's showing like they're cutting the ribbon for the construction of this bridge, and then you have 2 different Indigenous groups in Australia fighting over who gets to do the Ooga Booga ceremony, like the smoke ceremony.
It was the smoking ceremony,
Yeah, the smoke ceremony. And then like there's like 2 or 3 different progressions of this news story. And it's just like, at the end of the day, which one of these retarded grifters gets the invoice? Who gets paid for white guilt? For the white... Who gets paid in this white guilt industry? And then like these 2 guys are just fighting with each other on the street, and like the Australian media doesn't even know what to do with it. They're just like, whoa, what's going on here?
Dude, it's the same thing too. Like they have some laws. I guess it's is it Western Territory?
So that's why I was acting weird when I pulled up that article, and I was like, in order for them to do the excavation, they have to have a burning sacrament for weeks and weeks on end. Like, nigga, just get the scientists in there and dig it up and test the specimens. Tell us what the outcome is. This is
okay. Stop trying to colonize the process, Edgy. You fucking bigot.
Oh man.
But no, the reason I brought up Joel Davis there wasn't to go off on that tangent. It was more like he just kind of said, like, do you really want to do this? Because, like, if we're going to have all these disagreements over, who has the rights to do what, do you want to do war again? We can do war again. Because if it's, like, again, this has been brought up before, if it's unceded and unsurrendered territory, then I guess we're still at war. Do you want to do war again? I don't really want to do that, but if you want to, I guess we will.
It's so weird. It's so weird because there's so many implications about the hatred and the vitriol, like real hatred, real vitriol, real like baggage from centuries of things that have nothing to do with the people who are living here now. Like, we didn't do any of that kind of shit, right? And they want to hash that up now. It's not gonna work, man.
I think this is another aspect of it too. Yeah. nobody alive today is the one who did it, but also I don't care that they did do it. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not going to feel guilt for what why? Because my ancestors had the capability to do what yours couldn't. That's the only reason why. If you could have done it to us, you would have. You couldn't. I'm so sick of this. This was the way of the world since, the beginning of written history, and obviously predates it.
Right. Well, like I'll say right now, what you're talking about is a moral impugnation of Western society. And in reality, we were just the best at conquering, the best at doing all these things, and then we were the first to be the most tolerant and to abolish all these things that, like, we don't want to reign over other people.
I want you to put yourself in your ancestors' shoes for a second, okay? So you've developed like advanced whatever, music, art, science, literature, sculpture, on and on, all of these things. You became so advanced for the time period that you were able to build ships that could circumnavigate the globe. You developed, the cartography to be able to map it. You developed, advanced systems of astronomy so that you could circumnavigate the globe. You invented compasses. You invented all of this stuff, right? And then you show up somewhere and people don't even have the fucking wheel. Now put yourself in that person's perspective and tell me that you wouldn't think that you're substantially more advanced and more, like, I don't know, civilized than those people. For God's sakes, you would think that today. If I transplanted you to fucking whatever, one of these uncontacted tribes in the Amazon and let you live their life, you would look at them like they were fucking savages. Don't tell me that you wouldn't. You're a liar. You're lying to yourselves. And oddly enough, I think these, like, even the liberals that would say they wouldn't, they know it more than anyone. Because why? Because they play this savior thing, right? For God's sake, of course you would view yourselves as superior. Of course you would. Of course you would.
Yep.
You're a liar if you say you wouldn't.
At the end of the day, it's like, been there, done that. Our ancestors, we did that, yes. And we were the first to abolish the most reprehensible of the human condition. And it's still happening in all your countries.
Dude,
what the fuck is up with that? We have to intervene in all your situations. We have to be the savior. And in most situations, it's like we are being controlled, and we're not.
There's like 400 million.
Policy, right?
There's 400 million people living in Africa today that wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for all the aid in every kind of way, whether it's resources, food, medicine, everything that has been dumped into Africa is the only reason their population is as high as it was. It is, sorry. And for God's sakes, I don't know.
No, I think that's some good righteous anger, and
it's just
like owning colonialism too. I haven't heard. I haven't heard this a lot lately, and what you're doing, it just makes sense. Like, who would have done differently? And like, they're gonna try to make a moral impugnation against you, saying like, this guy is proud of his ancestors conquering everybody. Like, he's such a fascist. He's such a piece of shit. And it's just like, what do you think Africa was doing when they sold the slaves?
It's hilarious.
What do you think they're doing when they slaughter each other's villages? Whether it's the natives in Canada, the First Nations, they were slaughtering each other brutally all the time. Nobody's hurt more natives than other native tribes. And especially over there in Africa, too. Africa, or the Arabs especially, when they would enslave the Africans, they would cut off their testicles and penises and demasculate them. All of them.
It's a perfect example of this, too, is that you just touched on.
We don't do that. We didn't do that in our history. Go ahead.
There's a very interesting aspect of this, too, which is like the longer history. It's weird. We look back on these things and we take shame because it happened, 300, 400 years ago, 200 years, it doesn't really matter, right? 150 years ago, and because of the proximity to it, there's like this kind of shame. Go to Mongolia. You know what's fascinating about Mongolia? Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, they're all over. They're on their money. There's statues of them. They're like, you know, considered like the founding fathers of the state. They worship these people. They idolize these people.
And this guy on the coin, he fucked so many bitches. He just stole all the guys' wives. He raped them all. This guy on our motherfucking coin.
Yeah.
That's the Mongolians.
It's even like an even better way to say that is not necessarily the fact that he, you know, is, what is it? It's like 1 in 7 or something, you know, modern Asians have a direct lineage to Genghis Khan, is the fact that he fucking genocided people, and people will bring this up and be like, you guys are idolizing somebody who committed, like, you know, maybe up to 100 million murders. Like at his command, like 100 million people were murdered, and they'll be like, yeah, that's fucking based. This guy was a fucking gangster. Like, they idolize it.
Right. There's this guy, Bald and Bankrupt, who's like a YouTuber with over 3 million subscribers. And I think it was Keith Woods posted this, and he's like, base, bald, and bankrupt. And he's like a traveler, and he did like a lengthy piece of like defending the Mongolians, saying like, hey, they don't have that many resources in Mongolia. Straight up. Like,
yeah, they're poor.
They're poor. They're not like Canada, where they're like rich with resources. However, we don't use any of them because we're so cucked by our elites here, and we're just getting flooded. So, you know, even though we have all these resources, we can't even use them. Like Russia has tons of resources, China obviously, but Mongolia, they don't have that much. However, what they do have is a sense of identity and a sense of themselves, and they're not going to get fucked around by people.
But the reason I bring that up, though, is because, like, if you're Macedonian, or, you know, Greek as well, I guess, also have this, you know, fascination with Alexander the Great. They worship him. There are statues of him all over the place, right? Do they feel any shame for the fact that he murdered hundreds of thousands of people? That he conquered, like, the entire known world? Do they have any shame about that? No. Do the Italians have any shame about Julius Caesar, even though he basically genocided the Celts, the Gauls? He basically genocided an entire people. Do they have shame? No. So it's like, it's interesting because distance also allows you to all of a sudden take pride in something that would like, for example, if Julius Caesar existed in the year 1700 and he had genocided, you know, a whole bunch of Libyans, that would be like a shameful moment in Italian history, right? But because it was 2,000 years ago, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, Julius Caesar was fucking heckin' based, man. That guy conquered the shit out of everything, right? All of a sudden it becomes something that's morally acceptable to take pride in. So it's nonsense. Like this idea, again, it's like the crazy thing about it is because of Enlightenment liberal values that came in, you know, the mid 1700s, and, you know, eventually became, you know, the abolitionist movement and the, you know, the reconciliation type movement, like these types of things. It's literally the people that did the conquering that are the ones who are like, yeah, maybe this was not, you know, a very noble thing to do. It literally, the morality of it literally comes from the oppressor, the so-called oppressor, right? And then they take this up and they champion it, and they use it as a weapon against the people who were like, yeah, we shouldn't have done this. And then they're like, yeah, you shouldn't have. Fuck you. Now give us everything. It's like, well, maybe, I guess we should have genocided you then. Like, is that what you really want? Like, the whole idea, like, again, like residential schools, that was like the liberal concept. That, like, again, like, let's hammer this home. That was like the idea of like, this is the way that we can fix this problem without, you know, completely destroying these people. This is the way that we can integrate and assimilate and work together. Like, that was like, whether or not it was fucked up in practice doesn't diminish the fact that the attempt itself was kind of a noble one, if that makes sense. Like, the idea behind it was like, yeah, let's try to get along here. Let's try to work together.
I think part of it is that, like, the nobility of the morality of this Western society, it led to a sort of altruism, and this altruism had like had a weakness to it, and eventually this weakness, this altruism, this wanting to believe that anybody could be a part of this idea, and making it, like, straying it from a people's into an idea that everybody could be a part of, once you allowed the idea to be part of it, then foreign groups got involved, and then they subverted these ideas, and they were much more cunning, they were much less altruistic, and it really closed the gap between collectivism and individualism, and individualism died out, and we can see how it's going right now. And I don't think that any of these specific ideologies are necessarily immoral or moral. I think that's a false dichotomy. Yeah. I think what we're looking at here is reality, and what the groups that have taken over and that have subverted our reality to make us all individuals and to also collectivize on their behalf and then get everybody else to attack us. I think that sorry, I didn't even know where I was going with that.
I have a random one other thing to add here too is, so I mean I've read and listened to the entire Sherlock Holmes series like multiple times, and I started re-listening to the audiobooks because I have a lot of more driving to do now, right? And if you want some, based and red-pilled fiction to read or listen to, and you've never read the Sherlock Holmes stories, have a listen to them or read them. They're so good, and it's such an interesting, like, if you're a fan of history, like looking back at how the British looked at the late colonial period is fascinating, because there's a lot of like little history woven into those mystery stories. Like there's some base content in those books. I'm surprised they haven't been banned yet. And naming the J too.
Really, just a product of its time.
Yep, just a product of its time. It's fucking great.
Well, I think we should get back to this
yeah, sorry.
No, we went off, and even my thing that I didn't finish, I think I said a lot of stuff even though I didn't have a point to bring it home to. I think I was making some good points there.
How do the courts deal with cases when a white person is the victim of an apparent race-based attack? I have here a case from the Provincial Court of Alberta from 2016 on this topic, Her Majesty the Queen and Tamara Crowchief, and you can find the link for this in the show description as always. The facts are summarized in the introduction. The offender, Tamara Crowchief, pleaded guilty to assault causing bodily harm to Lydia White and 3 counts of breaching recognizance. She admits that on November the 1st, 2015, while bound by recognizance, she was outside a southwest Calgary pub with 2 friends. It was about 9 p.m., a time when the offender was to be in her residence. The victim, White, came out of the pub with a friend. One of the offender's friends approached White's friend and asked for a cigarette. White's friend obliged and began a conversation. Suddenly, the offender came up to White, yelled, quote, "I hate white people," unquote, and punched White in the mouth. The blow knocked out one of White's front teeth. And when Ms. Crowchief was booked, she told police that, quote, "the white man was out to get her," end quote. What did the judge have to say about this? He reviewed a number of cases where courts found that racial hatred was a motivation. So, for example, the Queen and Sims, the accused acted on his neo-Nazi philosophy and targeted the victim for his victim's supposedly pro-Semitic views. Another case here, Her Majesty the Queen and Van Brunt, the armed accused targeted a black person unknown to them. Both before and during the assault, they used a number of racial slurs. There was little else said in the course of the 1-minute-long assault. Her Majesty the Queen and Verdolyak, the accused and 2 others were verbally abusing an elderly woman on a Toronto transit bus. They were tattooed with neo-Nazi symbols. That was found to be hateful.
And that's all it took for that one.
The court says these examples are readily distinguished from this case. The offender said, "I hate white people," and threw a punch. Her counsel argued the offender was complaining about her socioeconomic situation. The Crown Counsel called that mere speculation. I agree, but there is no evidence either way about what the offender meant, or whether, as in the cited cases, she holds or promotes an ideology which would explain why the assault was aimed at this victim. What is clear is that the offender was one of a group of 3 Indigenous persons, one of whom was apparently engaged in a friendly conversation with the victim's friend. This, again, is unlike the situations listed in the case referred by the Crown. It's not a hate crime when an Indigenous person yells, "I hate white people," and punches a white person out completely unprovoked, but it is hate crime when similar unprovoked attacks accompanied by expressions of hatred towards a racial group happen to a group other than white people. That's essentially what that case says.
Guys, this guy is digging up the cases that prove what we know to be true. This guy is doing God's work right here. Now, over here, there's something that really made me laugh. White. Her last name is White.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. The first line: Tamara Crow Chief versus Lydia White. That's hilarious.
Crow Chief versus White. Now,
an obvious native name versus like an obvious fucking white person name.
I want to present to you another situation, and you're going to be floored by this too. Maybe you've heard a little bit about this, but I'm going to give you the ultimate red pill on this. So a couple months ago, some black guy, I don't know exactly which city, I could probably pull it up, but these kids were playing on their lawn. They like these little kids, like 4 or 5 years old, were bouncing a basketball. And this black guy who was their neighbor didn't like it. He wasn't supposed to be there. He had like somehow like got the homeowner to like flee out of their own safety. But this guy started freaking out. He's like, I don't like this shit. And then he came out with the gun and started shooting at little kids.
Yeah.
He shot at some little kids in America.
Yeah,
and
it was
then,
like North Carolina or something, eh?
Okay.
The NJP did a whole thing on this, I think.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, okay,
so this guy literally said, as he was shooting at a little white girl, and the father, Jamie White, Mr. White, got in front of his daughter, and he took the bullet, and the bullet went through him and grazed his daughter's face. And she's talking to the media with like a cut across her face from the grazed bullet from this psycho who's saying, I hate white people, I want to kill white people. Literally saying that. And guess what? Only one local media picked up any of the quotes against white people that this guy said. And Jamie White, the father, who got shot protecting his daughter, a real modern day hero, he told all the media this. None of them picked it up except for this one media outlet. And that's the only reason that the NJP, the National Justice Party, these like pro-white advocates, even knew that there was this extreme racial motivation going on that was being covered up, right? So none of the mainstream media picked up any of it. And is there going to be any hate crime charges against this guy in this situation? He literally said what his racial animosity was as he went and shot a little girl.
Well,
that's
dude,
insane. And you know who has the gall to call me out on that? Tony, aka Evan Balgord's burner account. Yep. He's saying that, I'm promoting the NJP because I'm talking about this situation in which a little girl was shot at by a guy who says, I want to kill white people.
Yeah.
And he attacks me for it.
They're definitely not anti-hate of white people. They're not anti-hating white people, that's for sure.
I can't believe how insane that
they're disgusting, man.
And all the facts behind it, and the fact that he would go after me and try to take a dunk on me and then cut out even why I was promoting these people. Because they're the only people that cared enough to take this to the next level, to try to show what is actually going on in our world.
So you know what's really disgusting though too is there are incidents in the United States. They're still a little bit better for this. It's much rarer, but like there are instances where whatever you want to call them, BIPOCs have been charged with hate crimes for incredibly egregious attacks on white people, right? There are examples of this you can point to in the States. It's fascinating. In Canada, I'm pretty sure, was it the Supreme Court ruled that you can't commit a hate crime against white people?
I don't know exactly what that situation is, and I'd love to hear more about it. But as we just saw here, this shows that they're unwilling to make a precedent. A woman literally says, I hate white people, and then assaults them as they're doing it. And they won't allow that to be charged under their hate crime statutes, which they do for anybody. Like, they'll go, like, anti-hate. They're creating profiles on all of us and profiling all our streams and clipping us. Do you know why Evan Balgord's burner account is doing this? So that if we get, like, pressed at one of these protests that we attend, and we're trying to get content, we're trying to, like, expose what's going on, and then we fight back in any way, then we will get charged with a hate crime, because then they will have all this evidence to show that we're hateful people. That's what they're trying to do, right?
I'm trying to find it.
And either way, in a court of law, like a lot of the outcomes of trials are based on precedents that have happened in the past. So clearly here, like the judge was very specifically not trying to set a precedent that you can be racist against white people, even though it was very, very obvious. So they never want to set that precedent because that precedent could be used in the future in a court of law.
Yeah, I forget where this, maybe it was Ontario, not all of Canada, but yeah, it was a ruling by, it was either a human rights commission or something. It's like basically you can't be racist towards white people, therefore you cannot commit a hate crime against white people, like some kind of legal precedent that was set a while back. Maybe the chat knows.
I mean, that sounds like CRT bullshit, right?
Oh, that's exactly what it is. But yeah, it was.
But that is ingrained in law, and they won't say it outright. But who do they have teaching the police forces? The Kojo Institute, the same institute, the DEI Institute, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Institute, that got that principal to commit suicide.
Yeah,
because he asked questions. Man, people aren't going to take this for long. Now, I have a couple more super chats from the one and only Dr. Jenstein over on Entropy. Thank you so much, man. He's saying, a church burnt down at my friend's reservation in 1995. I bet they did it. I still have relics next to my dag patch. God damn it, man. 1995. A reservation, a church burnt down, and he's got relics from it. That could be worth something in the dag community, you know. Next to your dag patch, that's fucking incredible. And he gave another super chat saying, earlier I planned to talk to my ex-black girlfriend, but thanks, Edgy. So I don't know what that was specifically referring to. I don't care about your ex-black girlfriend, Jenstein. You can put your dick in wherever you want. I grant you that. All right. We're going to get back to the content here.
End quote. What did the judge have to say about this? He reviewed a number of cases where courts found that racial hatred was a motivation. So, for example, the Queen and Sims, the accused acted on his neo-Nazi philosophy and targeted the victim for his victim's supposedly pro-Semitic views. Another case here, Her Majesty the Queen and Van Brunt, the armed accused targeted a black person unknown to them. Both before and during the assault, they used a number of racial slurs. There was little else said in the course of the 1-minute-long assault. Her Majesty the Queen and Verdolyak, the accused and two others were verbally abusing an elderly woman on a Toronto transit bus. They were tattooed with neo-Nazi symbols. That was found to be hateful. Then the court says, these examples are readily distinguished from this case. The offender said, I hate white people, and threw a punch. Her counsel argued the offender was complaining about her socioeconomic situation. The Crown Counsel called that mere speculation. I agree, but there is no evidence either way about what the offender meant, or whether, as in the cited cases, she holds or promotes an ideology which would explain why the assault was aimed at this victim. What is clear is that the offender was one of a group of 3 Indigenous persons, one of whom was apparently engaged in a friendly conversation with the victim's friend. This, again, is unlike the situations listed in the case referred by the Crown. It's not a hate crime when an Indigenous person yells, I hate white people, and punches a white person out completely unprovoked, but it is hate crime when similar unprovoked attacks accompanied by expressions of hatred towards a racial group happen to a group other than white people. That's essentially what that case says. And that's really the distinction between those cases. We can also consider that the many protests, including the ones that I referenced in episode 46, that involved causes against colonialism or against residential schools resulted in no charges in circumstances where people like Mr. Bernier were arrested and charged for trying to campaign during an election. So this finally brings me to the lengths that the state will go to.
Right. Remember all the Black Lives Matter, all the Every Child Matters Indigenous protests, and how much they went down at anybody who tried to protest the mask mandates. Like, it's so insane, and we don't really think about it much because it's just like we've already taken in how bad it was. And, like, these free speech issues, they're very brutal, but we were already brutalized for the last few years. It's quite incredible. really, when you think of it.
Yeah.
To get someone who is of the wrong political persuasion. And one case that caught my attention was the one of Patrick McDonald. And here's the RCMP announcement: individual associated with Atomwaffen Division charged with terrorism and hate propaganda. So this individual, Patrick Gordon McDonald, 26, from Ottawa, is facing 3 charges of participating in a terrorist group, facilitating terrorist activity, and commission of offense for a terrorist group. So what did he do to earn these charges? So it says, according to the investigation, Mr. McDonald allegedly helped produce propaganda material for the benefit of the terrorist entity Atomwaffen Division. He allegedly facilitated the creation, production, and distribution of 3 terrorist propaganda videos. This material was intended to promote the group and recruit members and encourage the commission of terrorist activities. Now, I haven't seen the videos that they're talking about. You can see some of Mr. McDonald's artwork just by Google search. Allegedly, he went by the name Dark Foreigner. So I just searched on Google for images made by Dark Foreigner. I'm displaying a couple of them on the screen here.
I would love to see what those videos were, and if they come to the threshold of incitement to violence or incitement to terrorism. Like, are they telling people to go and commit these crimes? Why don't we get to know this? Let's see.
But essentially, what I take from this is that this man was arrested for being a meme maker. This is the next level of sticks and stones may break my bones.
You're next, Ferry.
Probably.
I'm semi-joking, but yeah, they go after this guy. It's an easy target. Nobody really knows what he was doing. It was probably pretty fucking sketchy. What you're doing is actually being like Babylon B times 10. Like, with the satirical output that you're doing to actually help dissident movements. It's up there, and they don't like that. So they want to criminalize what you're doing, but they can't, because you have such like a backing of people behind you. And that's what Diagolon, that's what Plaid Army, that's what us supporting each other is all about, and making people aware of these issues that are going on. Because, hell, they called you a Holocaust denier in an anti-hate article when they first doxed you. So then, why haven't you been charged yet? Do they really want to go through with that? Do they really want to take it to that next level?
Yeah, they would have. Yeah, they would have. They would have if the law existed at the time that I said what I said.
Well, are they going to take it to that next level? And are people going to take it?
Although,
because they'll only go as far as people will take it, because these laws will backfire on them. If we could muster up the grassroots movement who understands what is actually going on, and they actually understand and respect free speech.
Honestly, what they like when they called me in that anti-hate article a Holocaust denier, that's actually libel. I never once denied it. I made allusions to, so I'm sure a lot of people are familiar, but like, if you go back and you look throughout history before 1933, there are dozens of references to 6 million Jews dying in Europe, 6 million Jews starving in Russia, 6 million Jews suffering in Germany. And I made reference to those news articles like the New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, I think the Washington Post, like there's all of these. And all I did was make reference to those articles and basically say, like, doesn't anybody else think that's a little weird? Like, come on, like, I can't be the only one who thinks that's a little fucking funny. Like, is that not just weird, strange? And so from that, they said, like, yeah, he's denying the Holocaust. Like, no, I didn't. I said that's fucking weird. Like, are you just gonna gloss over the fact that these articles definitely exist? There are the hard copies that are still there, and we're just gonna ignore that? So yeah, I mean, I didn't even deny it, but that's how they painted it. Although, well, I don't know if what I said then, if I was to, like, I don't even know. Did I just break the law right there? Maybe just by bringing that up. But
because you downplayed the seriousness of what you said and their interpretation of what you said. You downplayed the seriousness of their interpretation of what you said. You see how this works? You can never win. You could never win, Ferry.
That's what I'm saying, though. So, like, if you, there you go. I just brought it up again. So if you want to,
no, you're downplaying. Tacit, third party, by association. You're downplaying. You're diminishing. Ferry. I listened to the Parliament. In Parliament, they debated this law briefly, and the only debate that they had was whether the word downplaying, diminishing, or which word they should use for downplaying, diminishing, like buying. Who cares, man? It's so fucking pathetic. And then they had like some free speech advocates were like, this is already covered under free speech laws, and like, even though it's so horrible to say anything like this, it's already covered under previous hate speech laws, so we don't need to add anything to it. That was the opposition, and of course it got pushed through.
I'm actually tempted to, I have thought about this before. I don't know if I've ever talked about this before. I've been tempted for some time to just test this, to just be like the canary in the coal mine and be like, you know what? I don't think it was I think it was 5,999,999. That's how many I think it was. And then like, you know, next stream I'll be like, actually, I think it was 5,999,998. And just see how low you can get before they start.
How many days will that take? Do you need to do like hourly streams in order to get that? I don't know. The math just doesn't add up. The math doesn't add up. I don't know. The math. Oh, okay. No,
actually,
now I sound like a denier because
it was 5,999,997. Okay, that's maybe 96. 5,999,996. Okay, that's what I think it was. How far can I go down before they prosecute me with this law? Is that enough? Is the RCMP gonna come get me for that?
I'm scared. Please don't confiscate my devices. Like, that's so insane. They could come arrest you and confiscate all your devices in which you facilitated this criminal act.
Well, that's what I'm
supposedly downplaying the Holocaust. Like,
almost,
is that subjective? That's the most insane thing I've ever heard.
It's almost worth it. This is what I mean. Like, I'm not even joking. It's almost worth it to try and test this just to expose how ridiculous this law is. Like, and I mean, like maybe they wouldn't prosecute that. I don't know. But it would be interesting if they did. It would be like, holy shit. Like, yeah. I wouldn't lie. I'd be laughing as I'm being arrested.
Guys,
like, are you serious? Like, I jokingly did this just to see if you guys would arrest me, and you did. Yeah, like, at least it says what number is the threshold exactly. Like, how far down can I go before you're gonna send the fucking squad car?
Guys, this is where the buck stops. You have to realize that you can't let them tell you what you can think about history. And that you can't express what you thought about a historical event. There is something seriously wrong if that is the state of affairs that you're living in. Okay, so let's listen to the end of this video. I'm sure this guy appreciates us having these conversations where he's just like...
I went and gave him a subscribe, so...
Let's get him to 10K. We want him to grow that mustache.
Will always hurt me. Now, this video is not intended to be any sort of endorsement of Mr. McDonald's views or those of Adam Waffen, but...
Exactly. I don't endorse his views either. I'm not a siege tard.
The fact remains that the police went to incredible lengths to hunt down and find out who this meme maker was and charge him, whereas they can't solve even one of 83 churches that were burnt down, and they may not even investigate the...
Not even one of 83 churches that were burnt down. They don't care. They don't care about any of us.
Vandalism of a statue of Queen Victoria in Victoria Park. We'll look at this in a bit more detail from a legal perspective in next week's episode, where I look at the Patron case, revisiting it. I talked about it when he was first charged. This video, of course, is not...
If you're going and following us in tandem to this channel, go and give this video a like. Like, I want to promote this trilogy, this series that he's doing right now. This is incredible.
Yeah.
And now this video is even better. Like, you're gonna love this, Ferry. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Do you have a bit more time to chill?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Okay, so 140. I timestamped it.
Patron or patron made a video called...
Okay, there we go.
Hello, my name is Nicholas Wansbutter. I'm a lawyer in Stratford, Ontario, Canada, and welcome to Don't Talk TV. Several years ago, an individual named Travis Patron or Patron made a video called, quote, "Beware the Parasitic Tribe," unquote. I covered this in more detail in episode 16, but let me just give you...
So he's done multiple things about these in the past. I listened to the original one, but you could get a good grasp about what's going on without even having reference that source material. So this is pretty good.
A short snippet of what he said.
Everywhere these people go, they infiltrate the media, they hijack the central bank, and they infect the body politic like a parasite. If they had their way, our entire way of life would be eradicated. They don't like us. In fact,
That was just part of a longer video.
That's Travis Patron, the leader of the Canadian Nationalist Party, which has now been disbanded. I think they about 3 or 4 candidates running in different regions. One was a brown guy that I actually met and talked to extensively for a while. And he was like, I didn't know this guy was that crazy, man. I'm down for your, what do you call it? Paleoconservatism and anti-Zionism, but I didn't know that Travis Patron was crazy. I think this guy's name was Ralston Cowell. And Anti-Hate did an article about them, calling him a token minority, basically. Denigrating his status as a minority. It was pretty funny. But this guy was talking to us for hours. He was a pretty cool guy.
He was ultimately charged. The Canadian Anti-Hate Network filed a complaint. The RCMP investigated this and eventually charged him. Back when I made episode 16, I suggested a number of potential defenses or reasons why I thought a conviction was in doubt. But unfortunately, Mr. Patron chose not to approach the case from the sort of direction that I would have approached it from, and was ultimately convicted. So today I want to look firstly at his sovereign citizen Freeman on the land defense and why that...
Okay, a bit more context for Travis Patron. This guy seems insane. He assaulted 2 women. Well, he was probably drunk. I hope he was drunk, because he got charged for assaulting women as he was chaperoning them home. Bad guy. But that's not what we're talking about here. And he was involved in the legal system because of that too. However, he's being charged with an incitement to hate crime because of that video and his involvement in the Canadian Nationalist Party.
That was completely shot down. And in fact, the case is actually a good one for showing how these arguments never ever work. A lot of these sovereign citizen types, they, quite frankly, in my view, lie and tell people that they've won in court when they actually don't. They never do. So look.
Okay. That was an amazing piece of information. And I really want people to take that in, because I feel like a lot of you think that there's some way to beat it. Listen to this guy again.
And defense and why that was completely shot down. And in fact, the case is actually a good one for showing how these arguments never ever work. A lot of these sovereign citizen types, they, quite frankly, in my view, lie and tell people that they've won in court when they actually don't. They never do. So look at...
That's it. What's his name? Dean Clifford? Never wins. He never wins. And I know he was talking to Plaid Army type people. He was like, I'm gonna be the sheriff of Plaid Army or Diagolon. And then he fucked off eventually. And I said, this guy's no good, right? And people generally understood that this is retarded. He was a funny guy, and he was charismatic, but, dude, what these free men on the land and these sovereign citizen people do, they pretend like they win in court, and they're just completely egotistical. They're crazy. And they're also cultivating a cult that also wants people to give money to them. And they will always portray themselves as winning. But even when they do win, you look at this guy, Dean Clifford. He spent 2 years in jail. And he was openly talking about how he spent 2 years in jail. And it's like, buddy, you're such a free man on the land. You spent 2 years in fucking jail. They yeeted you out of jail because they don't want anything. You're so annoying to their legal system that they're just like, fuck off. And then, like, probably cops pull you over and there's like a red alert. Like, this guy doesn't have a license anymore. And then they're like, what should we do? And it's just like, it's not worth the headache.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not worth the headache to deal with these. But they will make an entire grift out of it. And yeah, I think that's the reality of these situations. You see these YouTube channels. They have a couple thousand, maybe like 1 or 2 or 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. And every once in a while, you'll get like a well-meaning person who's like, listen to what this person has to say about the legal system in Canada. And it's just like, they have the loophole. They cited the Magna Carta. They did this and that. No. Do you think the legal system cares about your fucking retardation? Or your fucking 1,000 to 2,000 YouTube subscriber right-wing sovereign citizen bullcrap? No. So it's only perpetuated by A, people who are retarded, who are lying, or well-meaning people who just want to get out of the system. And there are ways you could fuck with the system, and you could get out of it, and you could cheat the system. Now, I would be interested to see what these people are saying, but, you know, sovereign citizen, free men on the land, no. And it did not do Travis Patron any service here.
So today I want to look first.
And I'm so glad this guy is saying that. Like a real lawyer telling these fucking retards to fuck off. Marcus Ray, fuck off. Fucking Queen Romano Digilo, you fucking, like, yeah, Queen Romano Digilo, some weird Filipino woman who literally physiognomically looks like a monkey. She's the Queen of Canada. Oh, that's the real... She has the legal right to Canada. I'm sorry, guys. I can't believe there's that many boomers. Like, it really took me a journey to understand that people are that fucking stupid. Holy shit. Alright. Let's hear... whatever, Nicholas Waffenberger, or whatever his name is.
At his sovereign citizen Freeman on the land defense and why that was completely shot down. And in fact, the case is actually a good one for showing how these arguments never ever work. A lot of these sovereign citizen types, they, quite frankly, in my view, lie and tell people that they've won in court when they actually don't. They never do. So look at how that, and then we will look at the rest of the decision as it related to the hate crime provisions of the code. And we'll talk a little bit about his sentence and some of my thoughts, again, on how I think he could have or should have been acquitted if this case was approached in the correct way.
Jenstein says banned. Banned for what? I don't even know what I would get banned for at this point. There's too many things. I really appreciate it, Jenstein, though. Cheers.
In my view. So here we have the decision from Canley. Link is in the show description as always. Her Majesty the Queen and Travis Patron. So this is a pre-trial application decision. Mr. Patron, in my view, made not the wisest decision ever to go with a jury trial. I think this is a highly legal case, but we'll talk about that later. So
okay, yeah. So Travis Patron went for a jury trial instead of like a court trial, and this is very specific. When he should have gone like for like a case precedent situation instead of allowing a bunch of normie retards to see how dumb he is. I don't know exactly how the legal system works, but it's obvious that he fucked it up.
He filed a couple of applications. One of them relied on Magna Carta. The other application challenged the constitutionality of Section 319 of the Criminal Code, which, as I discussed in episode 16, had already been ruled on by the Supreme Court in Her Majesty the Queen and Keegstra. But let's look at this sovereign citizen type argument from the Magna Carta. So
the Magna Carta in the 1200s, like it's something like nobody is above the king. This is the most stupidest thing I've ever fucking heard in my life. It's just like, Edgy D, I'm the Magna... Like, I might as well just be like a black Hebrew Israelite. We was kings. And I'll just do a rap song about it. This is fucking retarded.
He wrote by hand his own thing, And essentially, I think this is the crux of his argument here, where he says Magna Carta is lawfully binding on the crown after being invoked on March 23rd, 2001. Not sure what that's in reference to. Magna Carta was obviously from 1215, as he does mention after that. And he says that this great charter confirms that the English Church shall be free and shall have its rights undiminished and its liberties unimpaired, a desire born of the crown's own free will. He said, no longer will our constituency, the Canadian Nationalist Party, suffer itself to be under the whore of Babylon. And in accordance with Section 6...
The whore of Babylon. Your Honor, please understand that we are operating under the whore of Babylon. As obviously recognized by the 1215 Magna Carta.
Case up 2, Travis Patron hereby solemnly declares his lawful notice issued on Her Majesty the Queen, with God as his witness, under the sig of the circle twice cut, and in the name of justice. Sovereign citizens love all this nonsense talk about the sig of the circle twice cut, whatever that even is.
Okay, well, let's slow him down. Let's slow down the smart talking guy.
Thinking that by uttering these magic words they will be immune to the law. Well, let's see how that worked out for Mr. Patron. So the court...
Uttering these magic words, they will be immune to the law. Man, there are too many Canadian boomer-waffin retards who have this magical imagination. And I hope that they're not watching right now. Because I hope that they're not watching my stream at this point. I hope I, like, fuck them off at some point. I don't want to give them any false hope. Like, this is bad. This is a bad state of affairs. Like, we really need to tribe and train and get young people to understand what it means to be a fucking Canadian. An old stock Canadian. I didn't believe this shit before. I was like, QAnon is crazy. But then I infiltrated a Romana Digiulo meeting, and there was hundreds of fucking weird, decrepit boomers who were just like all above, like it's like a mixture of like new age shit. I don't know what the new age has to do with this. I don't know, man. They want violence. They want violence, but they're too pathetic to let anybody but like a weird Filipino woman like put it out there and then retract it and make them all look like fucking retards. I don't get it.
I just want to address, somebody says something here and they're correct. Adam DB in the YouTube chat says, but the law is just magic words. And you are 100% correct. Who decides what the law is? The people with the most guns. That's who.
Yeah.
That's who decides it.
And if you apply that logic into the courtroom, and you think that your revelation, that like you, oh, I'm so smart because I realized that, and that's going to carry me through this legal process. No, you're fucked, man. Yeah. You gotta take their system and you gotta use their legal precedents against them. And yes, you can do it. It's very difficult. It's very costly. But hell, I think there's a lot of people, if you're smart enough and you're not a fucking retard boomer waffin who's like using these sovereign citizen free man on the land bullshit arguments, and you're actually going and studying law and using that to defend your free speech, I think you might have a chance, to be honest. And if you could also use social media to amplify yourself, to be the canary in the coal mine that people will actually come and help and get behind, like grassroots. Yeah. Not Ezra Levant, because Ezra Levant doesn't care. Ezra Levant only cares if it's Jews involved. We already know that.
I still think it's hilarious. That's like, so sovereign citizens reference the Magna Carta, right? Do you know the story of the Magna Carta? Do you know like the background of it at all?
What I understand of the Magna Carta is that, the king has the most rights. I have no idea. All I know is that is that the Magna Carta is like some kind of liberal like development upon the king.
Yeah.
And that like the king is subject to his citizens, but the citizens have democracy.
So basically the Magna Carta is often referred to as like the forerunning document of British common law, right? And the reason why I think it's so fascinating that sovereign citizens, love to reference the Magna Carta is because it even says actually right here in the thing that you have highlighted, where is it? And provided for the election of 25 barons to ensure King John's compliance with that agreement. Well, you know what happened is, yeah, they had this agreement, right? And King John agreed to it. And then as soon as, the rebellion was disbanded and kind of settled down, you know what King John did? He started going and killing those barons one by one and basically said, fuck your little piece of paper. That's why it's so funny, because as soon as the guy with the most swords decided he didn't want to follow this fucking law anymore, this thing that he agreed to, he just didn't. And then then that was it. That was it.
That's so funny,
it just
man.
Didn't matter anymore. So I don't understand how you can reference the fucking Magna Carta and not look at that historical example and understand what the true law is. The true law is, again, whoever has the most swords says is the law. That's what the fucking law is. That's how it's always worked. That's how it always will work. That's how it works right now. Whoever has the most guns and the most people to wield those guns decides what the fucking law is. It's that simple.
Like, Ferry, I don't understand how, like, you're dispelling and debunking a whole industry of retarded boomerwaffen who are falling for cult-like figures like Queen Romano, Marcus Ray, fucking Dean Clifford, all these fucking free man on the land, QAnon, fucking, I'm gonna do something, but I'm gonna not do something. All these fucking weirdo retards. And it's like, people want somebody to do something to the point where they're gonna allow a weird Filipino woman to say she's gonna put a bullet into the head of every doctor for every vaccinated child. And then they're going to overlook that. And then they're going to still follow some weird woman that says that. And they will allow violence. They will, like, justify, like, weird, like, retarded, violent, like, pseudo threats, instead of actually looking into what the reality of what's going on with Canada is, that we are facing a white genocide. And that, hey, there is Jewish influence and power that is raining down upon us. And the fact that we're not allowed to talk about it, that they literally push through Holocaust denial bills without any sort of democracy, which is what they can vetch about constantly. Oh, man. So we're in for it.
Another aspect,
we're in for it.
Another aspect of this sovereign citizen shit that's so ridiculous is that if you talk to these people, a lot of them aren't stupid. Okay, I've talked to them. It was David Whitehead's chat. You know who Truth Warrior, David Whitehead?
No. I don't,
okay,
I'm glad I don't know.
He's out of BC. He's fine, but there is like a sovereign citizen element to his audience. I was on his podcast once. We talked about some of this stuff. And so, like, I was getting into it with them, and they're like, well, look this up. And I looked it up, and I was like, yeah, you're right. And it makes no fucking difference. It makes no difference that, Canada is, I forget all the arguments, but it's like, yeah, Canada was founded as a corporation, and because of that, these laws are not like, they just have this whole spiel, and it's like, yeah, nobody cares. And they're like, well, we have to talk to people because that's how we'll get them to care about it. It's like, yeah, that's true. If you could get enough people, but again, this is like, you're not making a legal argument at this point. You're making a political will argument. So basically the argument you're making is, I'm going to use this legal argument to convince people that the laws don't apply to them. And so if we get enough people to believe that the laws don't apply to them, then they don't apply to them. It's like, yeah, but that's true whether or not you have the legal argument or not. If enough of if 70% of the population rises up and says, I don't abide by this law anymore, and there's like, united non-compliance, all of a sudden the law doesn't apply anymore, does it? Because nobody's agreeing to obey it. That's not a legal argument. That's a political will argument. It's completely different. And so the example that I gave them is like, it's a much better one to make the argument for than like the Magna Carta or any of this other, old British common law bullshit. A much better one is the income tax law. The income tax law was brought in 1917, and it was a temporary measure. It was a war measure, right? And the idea
in the
was
U.S. with the Federal Reserve.
No, I mean in Canada. In Canada.
Oh, really? In Canada.
The income tax law started in 1917. Okay. And it was only supposed to last until the end of the war. And it's more than 100 years later, and we still have income tax. So why can't Canadians say, hey, by the way, government, you never rescinded this income tax law? If you want to make a legal argument, that's a solid one. That law was brought in as a temporary measure and never removed. The government has no legal jurisdiction, no real legal, precedent to continue to tax your income. It was a temporary measure. And you can't get Canadians to agree about that. You can't get Canadians to rise up and say, hey, income tax is illegal, because it fucking is. You can't get them to do that, but you're going to get them to stand up and agree that, because of the Magna Carta, none of these laws apply. And I'm a sovereign citizen living on the land as a free man. No, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. What you're talking about is political will. Stop trying to build political will through legal arguments. You'll never do it. If you want to build political will, you do it through emotional arguments or through philosophical arguments, not through fucking tedious legal arguments.
Well, I'll say right there.
Anyways,
I'll say right there. Over. Like that was a great rant. And you're saying that a better legal argument would be advocating against the income tax, which was supposed to be a temporary measure in 1917.
Yeah, correct? That's a solid legal argument.
But you still don't have the power.
Exactly, and that's why it doesn't exactly. So,
but that's why people like us have to change the culture. And if you want to be the sovereign citizen, liberal hero, you cannot fall for these charlatans that are gonna lie to you and tell you that you just do this in court and you'll be all right. No, most of these guys, they were just so fucking abrupt. They just went through so many legal processes that the legal system doesn't even want to deal with them anymore. Do you think that the legal system wants to incarcerate Dean Clifford anymore? No, they're just fuck off. Fuck, leave us alone. And you know why he doesn't have a good YouTube channel where he can clearly state how it can help other people indefinitely? Because it can't.
Yeah.
And you know why we prosper? Because we tell people about real free speech issues and it resonates with people, and we're not selling them bullshit. We're not fucking setting them up to get their fucking their hydro turned off.
These people I don't know if they're charlatans.
I
think a lot of them actually believe what they're saying. But my point more with
the grifters, it's gross, man.
I don't even know if a lot of them that preach it aren't necessarily grifters. I think they're people who've just been had and now they're convinced that they're right. And if you talk to them about this, what they're really talking about is what we need to do is build political will. And they're trying to do that through legal arguments. They want more people to side with them and all come together along these legal argument lines. And it's but dude, if you can get enough people together, then you don't even need to make the legal argument. Then you have the political will to just change the law. In fact, you can make the law. If you have enough, that's what a revolution is, right? Yeah, fuck this old system. We're going to make a new one. All of this stuff that came before it, yeah, it's gone. And we're going to build a new one. That's a much easier thing to do than try to convince everybody to adopt these, complex legal kind of philosophical perspectives and then turn that into some sort of mass populist movement. That's fucking retarded.
I get what you're saying. And I think red pilling people on legalese is a very important thing. And it starts with things that work. Actually, what this guy is talking about.
Yeah.
So if you want to tribe and train and get people who are of like mind, and you want to man, when I get into this Plaid Army Diagolon shit, I look at all the people that I've met with in the last few years. I've had the best of friends throughout that whole scenario. This is not some weird I'm trying to get to the next level of my political manipulation America First or anything like that. This is tribe and community and like building up a community to fight against what we're facing, right? Oh, okay. I'm going off the rails here. Let's keep playing this video right now.
Court attempted to analyze his legal argument, saying that he appears to claim immunity or exemption from the criminal law under clauses 1 and 63 of the
I'm gonna slow it down a little bit.
Magna Carta. Those clauses respectively guaranteed the freedom and rights of the English Church, which, as the court rightly points out at that time, was simply the English branch of the Roman Catholic Church, ruled at that time by Pope Innocent III. And the other section provided for the election of 25 barons to ensure King John's compliance with that agreement. The wording of the application, Mr. Patron's refusal to engage and abide by court protocols, again, that is very typical of sovereign citizens, that they refuse to behave like civilized people in court. They like yelling a lot and speaking out of turn. The judge points that out as well, saying that this is typical of persons who subscribe to a nonsensical script and belief that they are somehow immune from the laws which apply to the rest of us.
It's so funny just to hear this and just to be vindicated on what actually happens in court, and just to hear these charlatans try to preach to people who are part of your community, and just to hear the reality of what actually happens to them. It's like, fuck off, leave us alone. Like, if you have something like, hey, if you have a loophole that can help somebody like own land better, or you have like a legal loophole that will help somebody, you're certainly not doing retarded shit like this.
So the court then goes on to review this phenomena a bit, and I recommend you read the case, because the court goes through numerous decisions showing where these sovereign citizens, freemen of the land, etc., have lost, and lost in impressive fashion. As they say in paragraph 11, courts have consistently rejected these outlandish claims. So they cite AVI and MHVB, 2020 ABQB 489, talking about this pseudo...
These boomers, like, who fall for these scams, they don't know this shit.
Law says it's a collection of spurious, legally incorrect ideas that superficially sound like law and purport to be real law. In layman's terms, pseudo-law is pure nonsense. He looks at another case, Galati in Canada. That's the federal court. So it says, Magna Carta is not a constitutional instrument. While its seminal place in the development of our constitutional legal principles is well known, its terms
Do you
may
mean that the law from 1200 is not legally applicable to your current case in 2020?
It technically is. It's technically part of the British Constitution, which makes it part of Canadian law. But again, I always forget this.
Well, I'm glad that Travis Patron had that oversight to correct them, right?
Yeah. I forget what this is called. I've brought it up a few times, but it's like it's something to. It's like a legal term in Westminster parliamentary style democracy, which is like the spirit of the law, right? So the spirit of the law is more important than the technicalities of the law in like a Westminster, in English common law. So it's basically what I'm saying is the current laws are the ones that are in effect, and the older laws that may be still on the books but no longer apply because there's new laws that supersede it. They're just kind of there, but like they're not necessarily defunct, but they're not in practice. So it's like when people are trying to bring up the Magna Carta doesn't apply anymore because we have different constitutions. It's like a good example of this is like, so the Canadian Bill of Rights still exists, right? But the Charter of Rights and Freedoms takes precedent over the Bill of Rights. Like they're both part of our Constitution, but nobody references the Bill of Rights anymore. It's like a defunct document. Like it's just that's how our law works. We write new laws over top of old ones, and the old ones are kind of no longer put to use. This happens over and over again.
Okay, well, I'm gonna play more of this video. I've watched it already.
Yeah,
I need to go to the washroom, but like this will give a lot more context. This is really good information for everybody, though.
By the legislation of Westminster and Parliament. He goes through a number of other cases. I'm not going to go through all these, otherwise this video will be half an hour long. But as we see,
I wish I could
from these
control that,
decisions,
because
I
that's
conclude
exactly
that
what I'm
Mr.
saying. It was
Patron's reliance
displaced
on the Magna Carta is misplaced. As important as it is historically in the development and expansion of rights and freedoms we now take for granted, it has been supplanted by modern law. And even if it hadn't been supplanted by modern law, Mr. Patron is not the Church of England. He's not the Roman Catholic Church. He's not a cleric of the Roman Catholic Church. So he can't claim immunity from the law by the provisions that he was citing there. Now, as I said, this went to a jury. The jury convicted him. Apparently his defense was, you can't prove I was talking about the Jews, as well as a bunch of his pseudo-law nonsense, which the Court of Appeal mentions he was trying to talk about that and upset that the trial judge didn't instruct the jury on that. But now we have the sentencing decision, so let's look at what happened there, because I think that's important as well. So we look down, starting at paragraph 19, the court points out the maximum penalty under section 319 is 2 years imprisonment, and that there's no sentencing range or starting point established by the Court of Appeal for Saskatchewan. He notes that the Crown Attorney is asking for a year in jail and then looks for a number of decisions. Here's Her Majesty the Queen in Kreplin 2021 ONCJ 19, so a 2021 decision from Ontario. An individual put up some posters that were promoting hatred against Jewish and black people. And the two accused, 23 years old, no prior criminal record, court sentenced both men to conditional sentences of 6 months of house arrest and 2 years probation with 240 hours of community service. Her Majesty Queen in Sears, 2019 ONCJ, two accused are found guilty for promoting hatred against Jews and women arising from publications in a community newsletter. Mr. Sears was given 6 months on each count, and Mr. Germain, who was 78 in poor health, was sentenced to 18 months probation. The court looked at a couple other cases from BC. Topham, elderly individual, 7 years old, 6 months of house arrest. Mr. Patron declined to speak or answer questions at the sentencing hearing. The court went on to talk about how this is such a serious crime. Willful promotion of hatred is a serious offense because it attacks and undermines tolerance. Tolerance is both a virtue and a basic Canadian value. Then at paragraph 62, the court says, taking all the factors and circumstances into account, I conclude that the sentence recommended by the Crown of 1 year imprisonment is appropriate. However, I will limit the following term of probation to 1 year rather than 2 years requested. The 1 year sentence was upheld by the Court of Appeal, although he had already served the entire sentence by that point, so it was a bit moot. But I think it's important to be aware of what type of sentences are starting to be handed down for these cases. As we looked last week, if you're attacking people of European ancestry, you may not be worried about getting a 1 year jail sentence. But if you do a video like what Mr. Patron did, you can be assured that you'll be getting a sentence in that range. So that is something very important to keep in mind. Now, as I
right. So I kind of missed what was going on here, but I know that he made a video for the Canadian Nationalist Party where he said that he wanted to expel the parasitic tribe. And, like, from what I gather, his defense was Magna Carta, sovereign citizen bullshit, but then also that he wasn't trying to kill people, like, with his incitement to hatred charge. So,
yeah.
Like, it's just so retarded because, like, yes, I understand he probably meant Jews when he was talking about the parasitic tribe, but when I think about, like, the act of parasitism, like, being parasitical, like, I think of an act, and I don't think of people, like, on a biological level. I think if you're, like, facilitating an act, and yes, there's lots of different groups that help facilitate those acts, so you need to call them out. Right? So I'm not like somebody who's gonna tell somebody that they're bad based on the way that they're born. And I think maybe he could have made that argument if that's what he meant. If that's not what he meant and he really just does hate Jews as a people, then maybe he could be contravening that law. I don't know. I really don't know. But, like, he definitely didn't do himself any service by acting like a fucking crazy person and implying Magna fucking Carta. Like the 1200s. Come on, man. Like, and I'm not saying that he needs to, like, buy into, like, the lawyer game and buy the most expensive free speech lawyer that is afforded to him that he could possibly get and crowdfund that. It's just like he could have done so much better just by being more sensical and, like, actually looking at law and being smart.
Yeah. It's funny too, because right after you left and you played that clip, he literally said exactly the document said literally exactly what I said. Like the Magna Carta is supplanted by, these documents. Like it's no longer, it's defunct.
I mean, I could tell you that in 1 second. Like,
I know, but it's like that's the way the system works. Is like, yeah, we have old laws that are still on the books, but they're no longer in practice. You can't just cite like the fucking like something from the 1700s as being, in
no,
like
I'm sure he has
dude.
an argument against you, saying that like, oh, but there's this one specific thing that they said here that said, but ifsy keepsies is like if you do the oopsie whoopsies and you go over here and then it's just like, what the fuck did you just say? And like these guys will go on for a never-ending tangent where they're always right. Fucking retards, narcissists. I don't know what to call them. Like I sympathize with them because they don't want to be persecuted. But hell, man, you can't help somebody who's just being too retarded.
Bombing Frog has a great point here again, which is he says they used a law from the 1200s against Zundel, the anti-white standard. Yes, they will use old laws to prosecute you, but if you try to use old laws to defend yourself, it won't work, which is exactly the point I was trying to make before. It doesn't fucking matter what the law is ultimately. What matters is if you can enforce the law. And so, yeah, they're gonna have it's like we talked about last night. It's not a double standard. It's the standard.
Yeah,
it's the standard. Okay.
Do you guys want a historical red pill right now about the Ernst Zundel trial? I don't know. It might get us fucking both arrested immediately.
Before you do that, though,
okay.
There's two really good examples of this in America recently. One is the burning with the intent to intimidate, which is a pretty old law that is, it was created basically for the KKK, right? Burning crosses on black people's front yards or whatever. And it was used against the Unite the Right March guys, the Tiki Torch March guys, right? So like that's a good example. Another good one is apparently the Democrats want to use language from the 14th Amendment, which basically, if I understand it correctly, it basically restricted certain Confederate politicians from being able to run for president because they were insurrectionists, I think is the word that's used. So basically, if you tried to lead an insurrection against the U.S. government, you can't run for president. And they're trying to say that Trump, the January 6th stuff, he tried to lead an insurrection against the U.S. government. Therefore, he's not fit to run for presidency. So again, trying to use these really old defunct laws.
Old school laws? Defunct laws? Can I bring back some old laws? Like you can't sell fudge after 7 p.m. in Wisconsin? Or that women have to wear the scold's bridle if their husband says that they're being an insufferable nag? I don't know.
Yeah. So like but these are examples, right? Like that's not going to be used against their side. It's not going to be used against, it's going to be used against outsiders. So what's Jeremy saying?
They were Civil War era generals and politicians, etc. So they couldn't be trusted.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was.
And they amended the Constitution.
That's as far as I understand it, that's exactly what it is. The 14th Amendment was that to prevent basically like, I don't know, Nathan Bedford Forrest from being able to run for presidency of the United States, right? That's what they were trying to avoid. It's basically, oddly enough, it was a law that targeted Democrats in the time period. So these ex-Confederate, politicians that joined the Democrats after the war, they didn't want them to be able to run for the presidency because for obvious reasons, right? So they made this fucking amendment. And now they're trying to apply it to Trump. So again, it's like, yeah, that would never be applied to anyone, but basically the reason why they're trying to apply this to him is because there's no law in the United States that says you can't run for the presidency from jail. There's multiple prisoners, like people who were in jail for life, who had presidential runs. Obviously, they didn't get any votes or anything, but like they were in jail. They ran an entire campaign from jail and they got like a few votes, right? So the idea being like, even if they manage to fucking put Trump in holding and he's in a fucking jail cell, he could still win the presidency. And like that's a legitimate potential outcome. So they're trying to find a way to make it so that he can't run at all. Which this is where the 14th Amendment argument comes in.
Right. And it seems like they're really taking him to task, especially with these Georgia indictments and all this stuff. They're literally saying that he incited people to insurrection, which is insane. Like, he thought that he was being cheated. He did not tell people to go overtake the Capitol or anything like that. And they would have got him on that earlier if they could. But like, I don't even know how to explain that. It's ridiculous.
I said, I'm still not satisfied that this was a rightful conviction. As I discussed in episode 16, the language used by Mr. Keegstra in the Supreme Court decision was much stronger and more direct than that used by Mr. Patron.
Okay, so just for historical reference, there was a guy named James Keegstra who was a teacher, and he was also the mayor of a town in Alberta, and he was teaching all the students Holocaust denial for like a decade.
Yeah.
And eventually they got him, and they successfully charged him with hate speech. So that is the legal precedent that is going on there.
The court only upheld sections 318 and 319 because of the definition was so narrow. Yet the definition, we don't know how the jury interpreted it. The jury appears to have broadened the definition, but this case is really of no precedential value in determining what constitutes hate crime because it was a jury decision. I think this really needed a judge, because a judge would be required to review the law and rule within the law, and would have been subject to an appeal if he didn't. I don't know what his instruction was, because Mr. Patron didn't appeal on that basis. Essentially, Mr. Patron seems to have put all his eggs in the sovereign citizen basket, and that ended with predictable consequences. This video, of course, is not legal advice.
Yeah. So there it is there. And there's a lot of legal processes going on right now. I think Slapinski and Anti-Hate and Hill Times are being sued for like copyright infringement on pictures.
They are.
Now I don't know what's going on with that. That seems like I don't care about pictures, but hell, maybe like this guy was really passionate about his pictures. He told them multiple times, "Hey, those are my pictures. Like, give me some credit. Give me something."
A part of the argument is that he caught Anti-Hate in a straight up lie. They stole his photo, and then they claimed it was a screenshot from a video that was publicly circulated, when it wasn't at all. It was a photograph that was taken by a photographer for usage by specific people, and then they just decided they were going to use it. And then they told the Hill Times that it was a screenshot from so Anti-Hate is I think the one on the hook for a lot of this.
So Picturegate runs deep. Oh no, you shouldn't have fucked up like that. Oh no. Yeah. Well, it seems like they're getting a bit of a taste of their own medicine for fucking with other people constantly. Right.
Yeah. So yeah. All right. I gotta head out though, man. I gotta be up in like 4 or 5 hours. So
yeah, no worries, man. I appreciate you staying on this long with me and going through all these topics.
No, that was fun.
Yeah, man. So I'll play a song to lead us out right now. How about some Clash? Police and Thieves in the Streets. I just want to say, everybody, thank you all for coming out to the EdgeStream tonight. Really appreciate you all the support that I've had tonight. I'm just going to make sure I haven't missed any donations. Holy shit, we got a bunch more donations. Okay, this is gonna go on a bit longer. This is maybe 2 more hours. Ferryman, can you handle that?
No, I can't. I'm gonna leave like right now.
Okay, all right. See you, man.
Okay, see you, dude.
Thank you for coming on tonight. All right. Well, Dr. Janstein says, "I will never let you down," and he throws me a generous donation. Godzilla Unchained says, "I understand that Trump and his fellow co-defendants are in the USA, not Canada, but our laws are similar. Those folks are an A-team lawyered up and will be defending our God-given rights to free speech. Okay, so from what I gather, you're saying that Trump is facing some political persecution, and he's got a really good team that is going to defend free speech in the U.S., and that we have a trickle-down effect coming over here. Well, I don't know. I would definitely support Trump in all his endeavors, and I definitely think he's being politically persecuted. But I think the free speech issues that are going on in all Western countries are definitely separate from that. And yes, political persecution, we have to defend Trump when he is legitimately getting politically persecuted, which he probably is now, especially in the Georgia legislature. And they're trying to say that he's like seditious, or he caused this an insurrection and caused all this violence on January 6th, when that is just simply not the case. Yeah. I don't think all our eggs are in that basket necessarily, though. But I appreciate the super chat. Dr. Jensen with another super chat saying, grifting, guns, bombs, knives, rage, tape, handcuffs. I'll add a few more. Anthrax, nuclear fusion, and corrective rape. That's a nasty one. You don't want no part of that shit. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Jenstein. I love to have you over in my my odious dungeon that I have going on here. I know that you love Fairy's murder dungeon. Come on to Edgy's torture dungeon, and I'll show you how we deal with our enemies over here. And I'm just joking, of course. This is all just comedy. And now I'm talking to myself. I realize I have a 2-screen over here. I'm going to go to solo screen, and I'm going to say goodbye to all you people in chat. Oopsie daisy. Corrective rape. Yeah. You know, I don't support corrective rape. It was a joke. You know, sometimes over here at Edgy D, we get into some edgy jokes. I know it's crazy. You know, you'd think of the name of the channel, the EdgeStream, Edgy D TV, that it would just be like G-rated, and it would be all puppies and unicorns and whatnot, but no. From time to time, we have a couple rape jokes, including corrective rape jokes when people aren't acting right, and we really need to break down them mentally in order to just destroy their human. No, we don't do that over here. Edgy D, I'm all love. You saw how you guys donated to my dad's fundraiser, the Parkinson's Ride for Parkinson's fundraiser. My dad raised over $4,000. You guys contributed to that. I will be making a short film about that in the future. I really appreciate all your guys' support. And I see Rage in the chat. Is Edgy Dexter? Yeah. I'm just performing for Rage at this point. Like, I'm just trying to top him and how disgustingly vile and odious I can be and jeopardize all his court cases by him merely being associated with such a reprehensible character as I. But, you know, it's all love. And I see on Rumble, we have Revon LB. You're gay as fuck, Edgy. Persecuted for what? Terabytes of your dick on your laptop. Getting the Edgy trial. You can't be gay in Canada, Osama. I don't even know what this guy... Does this guy not like me? Edgier live is a waste of time. Goof fuck. Go to bed, Fairy. Edgy be up all night. Fair feet, pen, posit. Holy fuck. Do I have my first hater? Rev, I don't know who's on more drugs, my hater or me. I thought we had a common connection there, but then I kept reading, and I just don't even know what you're saying at this point. But either way, I appreciate you guys all coming out tonight. I appreciate everybody who's donated to me tonight, especially. It really helps. Dr. Jenstein, real recognize real, and love you, Rage. All right. I'll see you all later. Smash that like button too, please. Let's get this up in the algos. Hell yeah.
Police and thieves in the street. Oh yeah. Scaring the nation with their guns and ammunition. Police and thieves in the street. Oh yeah. Fighting the nation with their guns and ammunition. From Genesis to Revelation, the next generation will be in me. From Genesis to Revelation.
From Genesis to Revelations, in between that time period in the Bible, Dr. Jenstein gave me a $10 super chat. What he said? Let me tell you. He said, I can tell you have pure blood. Reach out. I don't know what that means. I'm a little bit scared, but I'm appreciative of the donation. So thank you, Jenstein. I'm hoping that we could torture some lost souls in the future.
Police and thieves in the street. Oh yeah. Scaring the nation with their guns and ammunition. Police and thieves in the street. Oh yeah. Fighting the nation with their guns and ammunition. Genesis to Revelation, the next generation.
Oh, more super chats. One on Odyssey. Well, thank you, Glock23. He's saying, I was late to the stream tonight, but I'm sure it was an awesome show. I will do my best to get you more viewers. Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. And cheers to you for supporting me on Odyssey. It's a great alternative platform.